Li Mei's Sword of Destiny. Chapter 4131. Search. 20 streams of godly force. Together with the great earth flame, the human emperor's flame alone has 30 streams of godly force. Lin Ling stared at the fiery vortex in his hand. His eyes flickered with astonishment. As expected of the godly fetus. After comprehending the godly fetus, his godly force had increased by a few times. Furthermore, this was only the human emperor's flame. If the lightning lock flesh also improved his godly force, it would not be any weaker than the human emperor's flame. Unfortunately, Lin Ling had no clue how to comprehend the lightning lock flesh. I've been cultivating for quite some time. It's time for me to go out. Clenching his fist, the fiery vortex disappeared. Following this, Lin Ling rose to his feet. His eyes seemed to be able to see the outside of the cave. However, deep inside his eyes, there was a hint of confidence and battle intent. The reason being that his strength had improved by more than a few times during the mission. Not only had his cultivation improved, even the strength of his flesh and godly force had improved significantly. On top of that, he had obtained 2 great treasures. One was the Underworld World Massacre Badge, and the other was the Beast Hide Map. The Beast Hide Map was also a rare treasure. However, it was still slightly weaker than the Underworld World Massacre Badge. On top of that, Lin Ling also had quite a number of sapphire spiritual flowers and God stones. In other words, with the improvement of his talent and godly force, he would not be lacking treasures in the short term. However, Lin Ling was still lacking the treasures needed to improve his boundary force. Until now, among Lin Ling's 6 dantians, only his first dantian had reached the 3rd layer martial god realm. The stronger my strength, the more resources I'll need to cultivate. During the era of the gods, the birth of the gods was most likely due to the accumulation of countless precious resources. Lin Ling exclaimed. If the others had already done so, he would need even more treasures to cultivate all 6 dantians at the same time. Therefore, he sometimes secretly felt lucky that he was able to break through so quickly. He, Lin Ling, could be considered to have hit the jackpot. Is the cultivation done? At that instant, the giant ghost flew into the cave. Lin Ling nodded, tidied up his clothes, and then thanked the giant ghost. Thank you for your hard work during this time. It's fine. Just remember to help me find my origins. The giant ghost shook its head. Of course I remember. Lin Ling left the cave with the giant ghost. Then he looked into the distance and discovered that the cave was hidden on a barren wall. However, there were a lot of barriers around it. Therefore, if one didn't get close, they wouldn't be able to detect it. It was set up by that trial taker called Little South. She looks pure, but she's not weak. When the giant ghost saw Lin Ling's gaze, it immediately explained. Lin Ling couldn't help but smile. I wonder where they are now. I should be able to find them, including the God Extermination Alliance. Take your time. You'll eventually find them. By the way, when you were unconscious, Longnyang wanted to kill you several times. However, she held herself back in the end. On the contrary, the cave was almost discovered several times. It was she who lured the intruders away. This Longnyang kept her promise. However, she was able to suppress her killing intent. This shows that she has good self-control. However, I believe that when she made her move, she would definitely fail. Perhaps. Lin Ling led the giant ghost into the cave and walked slowly along the barren land. Their primary goal was naturally to find the God Extermination Alliance. Of course, Lin Ling also wanted to plunder some treasures to upgrade his 5 dantians. After all, he knew that most of the cultivators who had come to this void were here for him. Since they dared to come, they couldn't blame him for being ruthless. Oh right. You don't have any impression of your origins, right? Actually, I've always had a guess. As they continued walking, Lin Ling suddenly thought of something and turned to the giant ghost. Speak. It's like this. You appeared in the 8 gods' heavenly palace. Therefore, I'm guessing that you might be the other side of the 8 gods. I heard that the 8 gods have 8 sides, which represent good and evil. That person called Han Xia. The giant ghost that follows him seems to be the other side of the 8 gods. Hearing this, the giant ghost fell silent. Lin Ling did not disturb it because he knew that the giant ghost had its own guesses. Look, there's someone there. As Lin Ling continued walking, someone suddenly exclaimed behind him. Then, more than 10 figures turned into rainbows and flew over, blocking Lin Ling's path. "Kid, who are you?" The leader was a man who looked to be in his 30s. However, his strength was not weak. He was a 7th-level martial god and possessed a 10th-grade ultimate desolate body. Of course, those who could appear here were naturally super experts of the final world. They were definitely not weak. "I think I've seen him somewhere before," a woman beside the man said with a frown. However, she could not recall where she had seen him before. As a matter of fact, the man was familiar with Lin Ling too, but he could not recall Lin Ling's background. He observed Lin Ling and said calmly, "What's your cultivation?" Lin Ling was startled. The man was asking him what his cultivation was. However, Lin Ling did not try to hide it. He said calmly, "3rd-level martial god realm. You dare to come here with such a cultivation? Are you out of your mind for the treasure?" An old man beside the man snapped furiously. His voice was filled with disdain. "This is the young master of Duke Lu's residence in E-City, an expert of the 3rd hall of the E-Garden. Our young master is asking you if you've seen any treasure nearby." They were obviously here for the golden flames they had seen before. "I haven't seen any." Lin Ling glanced at them with great interest. Initially, Lin Ling was too lazy to pay attention to them since they were so weak. However, Lin Ling suddenly recalled that he still needed to gather some information to know if there were any changes to the rift. Thus he was not in a rush. "Did you steal that kind of treasure? I'm telling you, the treasure belongs to our Lu clan. If you hand it over at once, I'll spare your life," the man said coldly when he saw Lin Ling's calm reaction. "To be honest, I have no idea what the treasure you're talking about is. However, I'm guessing that even if I do have the treasure..." Lin Ling glanced at the crowd and shook his head. "You might not be able to get it either. Are you trying to die?" The man was infuriated hearing this. How dare a 3rd-level martial god realm junior act so scornfully? Bang! His realm essence immediately erupted. Moreover, his innate talent was displayed. It was a mysterious leaf, but it released an incomparable might. The 10th-grade ultimate desolated flesh. Even in the 36 academies, this was a rare existence. Unfortunately, his opponent was trial-taker Lin Ling. Lin Ling could not help but shake his head. Was it because he had been in seclusion for too long that the people in the final world could no longer recognize him? "Young Master Lu, you can't." Chapter 4132. Can't swallow it. However, the man called Young Master Lu did not listen to the woman and immediately attacked. Endless leaves floated out, slicing through everything. As the wind blew, more and more leaves appeared, drowning everything within a radius of 10,000 miles. Upon closer inspection, the sky was filled with leaves. However, even the air was being sliced apart, and the void was being sliced apart. Clearly, young Master Lu planned to use his powerful talent to force Lin Ling. Moreover, his eyes were filled with murderous intent. He still believed that Lin Ling had stolen the golden flame from before, so if he killed Lin Ling, he would be able to obtain such a rare treasure. Young Master Lu. The woman still wanted to stop him. "Time is tight. Many people will be here soon, so let's make the first move. After all, even if we don't attack, others will." However, the old man next to her stopped her. Killing Lin Ling would save them time and reduce unnecessary trouble. The endless leaves drowned Lin Ling like swords. The sound of leaves colliding was ear-piercing, like the sound of swords clashing, but with a touch of divine aura. Seeing this, the woman stopped trying to persuade him. She thought that Lin Ling might have a powerful background, but now it seemed that she was overthinking because Lin Ling seemed to be unable to withstand a single blow. Is the power of a god going to be born? Then, the woman stared at the leaves around her and said in shock. She knew that young Master Lu's move was called the Realm Leaf Kill. It was extremely powerful and was about to give birth to the power of a god. Once it was born, young Master Lu's ranking on the stairway to heaven would definitely rise. That's it. At this moment, young Master Lu laughed disdainfully in the endless leaves. "I thought you were someone important, but it turns out you're just a weakling." However, just as he finished speaking, a blinding light appeared. It was a golden light, mixed in with the dense leaves, and began to increase in number. In the end, the endless golden light was like a sea urchin, shooting out from the densest leaves in the center. Boom! Then all the leaves were shattered into pieces. A faint figure slowly walked out from within. His pace did not seem fast, but it was filled with a domineering aura. Who else could it be but me? This time young Master Lu was stunned. The woman, the old man, and the others were also stunned. What kind of method was this? It was too fierce. As for young Master Lu, he stood there in a daze, but his expression became extremely ugly. This person had broken through his killing move? I've always been curious about what treasure you're looking for, but now I seem to have guessed it. Lin Ling was still moving forward, completely ignoring everyone's expressions. What a surprise, you're pretty impressive. You're the weakest third-layer martial god I've ever seen. Young Master Lu also sneered. A green leaf floated out from his palm. It kept spinning, but there was an irresistible majestic force mixed within it. Divine power. Sensing Ye's feedback, the woman's eyes trembled. Young Master Lu had comprehended the power of God? Looks like I've underestimated young Master Lu. Young Master Lu didn't even use his full strength earlier. You're also the weakest seventh-layer martial god I've ever seen. Meanwhile, Lin Ling spoke calmly. What he said was indeed the truth. Up until now, all the seventh-layer martial gods he had fought against had possessed the god embryo. Shameless boasting, die. Young Master Lu tossed the green leaf forward. The mysterious leaf instantly vanished as it weaved through the rift at the speed of 6,000 worlds. The speed was not slow at all. An ordinary third-layer martial god would most likely be killed with a single blow. Meanwhile, Lin Ling was still holding his hands behind him. He did not seem to be doing anything, yet the green leaf had penetrated his body. Young Master Lu was startled. How did he end the battle so quickly? However, Lin Ling soon reappeared. The figure that the leaf had penetrated was only an illusionary figure. Most importantly, Lin Ling's speed was just too fast. It had completely exceeded their senses. What? Young Master Lu was overjoyed, but his eyes suddenly widened. However, Lin Ling was still walking toward him calmly with his hands behind him. Whoosh! The leaf with the god force kept penetrating Lin Ling's body, but it was only an illusionary figure. This. The crowd was utterly terrified by Qin Nan's speed. Wasn't the man too calm facing the god force? Young Master Lu was extremely confident at the beginning, but his forehead was soon covered in cold sweat. Unless he was an idiot, he could easily tell that the young man's strength was a few times stronger than his. However, how could a third-layer martial god be so strong? How was this possible? Do you only know how to dodge? Young Master Lu could not help but curse. However, as soon as he finished the sentence, the leaf with the god force was stopped. Upon taking a closer look, a few jellyfish had appeared and blocked the leaf eerily. They even began to devour the god force. In the end, the god force was completely devoured by the jellyfish. The jellyfish were like demons with a godly aura that surpassed the ultimate desolate flesh. This caused everyone to be even more dumbfounded. Their legs continued to tremble, especially young Master Lu. He almost couldn't stand properly. You must be looking for this wisp of flame. As for Lin Ling, he came in front of young Master Lu. A wisp of golden flame appeared in his palm, jumping around like a spirit. Yes. Young Master Lu stared at the flame and swallowed his saliva. Finally he nodded. It's called the Flame of the Human King. Lin Ling nodded as well. If you want it, sure. However, it will depend on whether you can withstand it. After saying this, Lin Ling gently raised the flame. Flame of the Human King? Could he be? Upon hearing Lin Ling's words, the woman felt like she had been struck by lightning. This was because she had never seen Lin Ling before, but she had definitely heard of the Flame of the Human King. Below Lei Gong's trial taker, the divine voice Lin Ling's talent. He is Lin Ling. Upon thinking of this, the woman roared in horror. She never expected that the Lin Ling that the entire void was searching for would be here. Furthermore, according to the rumors, Lin Ling was heavily injured. However, from the looks of it, he did not look like he was heavily injured at all. Lin Ling. Young Master Lu stammered as he spoke. He naturally knew about the bounty issued by the Spirit Nation. Among them, the bounty for capturing Lin Ling was the highest. Furthermore, the Spirit Nation had said that although Lin Ling was a trial taker, the void here had been sealed. Therefore, even if the gods knew that Lin Ling was dead, they would not know who killed him. As such, everyone who entered this place went crazy. However, despite seeing many people from the Godslayer Alliance, they could not find Lin Ling. And now young Master Lu's luck had come. He was the first to meet Lin Ling. Of course, young Master Lu also believed that this was not his luck, but his misfortune. Boom! A wisp of the flame of the human king landed on young Master Lu's body, and immediately burned him. His realm essence and ultimate desolate body could not withstand a single blow. It wasn't even enough for one Dantian to break through. Let's go to the north. Lin Ling put away the Emperor crystals and prepared to gather enough Emperor crystals to break through in one go. At present, he was not afraid of the martial artists in the void. However, he was afraid of the Spirit Nation. As long as the Spirit Nation did not send elites like Lord Ning, Lin Ling was confident that he could do whatever he wanted. Where are you? Along the way, Lin Ling sensed something in his heart. It was the people in white who had been assimilated by him in Spirit Light City. Those people were obviously with the Creation Alliance at this moment. Sir, you've awakened. Those people in white were still far away, but they could sense Lin Ling's words and were overjoyed. They also told the news to Lu Chan, which made the Creation Alliance very excited. Tell me the general location, and I'll go find you. Lin Ling had roughly guessed that the Creation Alliance was not in big trouble at the moment, so he smiled and said. The people in white also told him the general direction. However, this void was ethereal and untraceable, and the ground was a wasteland, so Lin Ling could only know the general location. However, with the Human King's Flame's ability to sense those people, Lin Ling estimated that it should not be wrong. Of course, he also wanted to break through in his dantians, so he was constantly plundering Emperor crystals along the way. Stop, who are you? Lin Ling did not need to do anything to plunder the Emperor crystals. Those experts who had been assimilated before were like the vanguard, scrambling to get the credit. Who are you? We're just passing by. Why are you stopping us? Those who were stopped were naturally confused. In this void, wasn't the main goal to capture the Creation Alliance in Lin Ling? Get lost, we're going to capture the Creation Alliance now. What are you trying to do? After a moment of confusion, those people said angrily. Nothing, we're just asking you to give us some Emperor crystals to spend. Those who had been assimilated by Lin Ling finally bared their fangs. Damn it, you're robbing us. Do you know who we are? Hearing those words, the other party was naturally furious. However, after the collision, they were no match for Lin Ling's group. One by one, they were beaten black and blue and had to hand over their Emperor crystals. At this time, Lin Ling walked out of the crowd, sprinkled the Human King's flame, and then moved forward again. There was no doubt that those people had become Lin Ling's followers again. Next, Lin Ling continued to plunder and assimilate his followers, causing more and more people to follow him. Damn it, Lin Ling is so hard to find. I've been looking for him for 3 years. I was the first batch of people to enter here, but I couldn't even find a strand of hair on Lin Ling. Only the Creation Alliance knows the whereabouts of Lin Ling. Alas, I heard that Lin Ling is seriously injured now. It's the best time to catch him. Yeah, Lin Ling has a treasure on him. Whoever gets it can become a divine fetus. What a pity. Along the way, Lin Ling also met more people. It's not hard to find because I'm right here. Unfortunately, the strength of those people was not strong, so Lin Ling easily made a move and assimilated them. Ah, Lin. My lord. The whole process of assimilation could be said to be smooth sailing. Those who were assimilated were also speechless. It was not easy to meet Lin Ling, but in the blink of an eye, they became Lin Ling's people, and they could not resist at all. The most depressing thing in life was nothing more than this. After arriving in the north, Lin Ling met even more powerhouses. These powerhouses came from all over the 9 regions. They were all prominent existences in the 9 regions. Moreover, there were many powerhouses from the Final World's Duke's mansion. This caused Lin Ling to sigh inwardly. The Final World was indeed a place filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Normally, there weren't many experts, but the moment a treasure appeared, these experts would rush out from the shadows. Treasures were indeed always tempting. As soon as he approached this new area, all kinds of voices came. Someone saw the Creation Alliance in that direction, but it's strange. The Creation Alliance seems to have stopped moving and has been wandering in that direction. Chapter 4134. It was the real deal. I also heard that those people were prepared to capture Lin Ling. Lin Ling led a large number of people forward. When the people around him heard the rumors, they couldn't help but laugh. This was because they knew that he was talking about them. My lord, look. Then they all looked at Lin Ling. On the ancient wasteland, Lin Ling looked into the distance. Then, he stared at the experts passing by from time to time in the sky and on the ground. Finally, he nodded and said, "Confess everything." All right. The people around him were all overjoyed. Then they moved out. All the cultivators they met along the way were stopped by them, and they directly tried to recruit them. "What are you doing?" "What? Trying to recruit us?" When they heard Lin Ling's intentions, everyone was astonished. An old man at the level 8 Martial God realm said indifferently, "Don't tell me you've heard about the emergence of a new force recently, so you want to form a powerful force to fight against it. Besides, I can guess what you're planning. You must want to form a powerful force to wipe out the Creation Alliance and the Orochi tribe in one fell swoop. However, what makes you think you can recruit us?" The old man clasped his hands behind his back, as if everything was under his control. His words also made Lin Ling startled. This old guy's imagination was really rich. Upon seeing this, Lin Ling, who was under the protection of his subordinates, shook his head and strode out. As he walked, he looked around and realized that a large number of experts had gathered here, and there were still many people rushing over. This was even better. "Milord." Seeing Lin Ling come out, his people also saluted. They knew that mortal monarch Lin Ling was going to personally take action. "You are their leader." Everyone also stared at Lin Ling with a look of contempt, as if to say, "You want to recruit us? What qualifications do you have?" "Kid, I have to say that your ambition and ideas are very good. However, you're still too inexperienced. We're here for the treasure. If you want to recruit us, I'm afraid you'll have to pay more than the Spirit Nation." The old man with decent strength also narrowed his eyes and stared at Lin Ling, but a thought flashed through his mind, because this young man seemed a little familiar. However, Lin Ling didn't say anything. He clasped his hands behind his back and looked at them indifferently, because he was waiting for more people to arrive. However, what made him speechless was that even though more and more people were arriving, not a single one of them was able to recognize him. On the contrary, those people were rubbing their chins as if they were thinking about something. In fact, they were also suspicious of Lin Ling. They felt that they had seen him somewhere before. However, they did not expect that the blue-robed man was Lin Ling. Perhaps, after 3 years of searching, they had become numb. They would never have thought that Lin Ling would appear in front of them. "It's about time." At this moment, Lin Ling finally spoke. "Pretty much. Are you saying that your reward is similar to that of the Spirit Nation?" Hearing Lin Ling's words, the old man's eyes lit up. At present, he had also obtained a sapphire spiritual flower from the Spirit Nation. Although this treasure was a precious treasure, he obviously wanted more. First, he wanted to capture the people of the Creation Alliance and the Serpent Clan. Second, he wanted to join the Spirit Nation. In this regard, he naturally wanted to capture more people from the Creation Alliance. On the other hand, he didn't know if joining the Spirit Nation was a conspiracy, so he had been hesitating. Now, this young man actually said that his reward was similar to that of the Spirit Nation. This was a great bargain. Everyone was stunned and then laughed. Some of them even licked their lips excitedly, waiting for Lin Ling to take out a treasure to recruit them. In any case, from their point of view, this so-called recruitment was nothing more than a gathering of people, so why not? Therefore, the way they looked at Lin Ling had a faint hint of the word idiot in their eyes. Moreover, he was an idiot with a lot of money. When I said it's about time, it means that your number is about the same. But at this moment, Lin Ling shook his head. What do you mean?" Undoubtedly, his words were like a basin of cold water that extinguished everyone's enthusiasm. "Not much. First, I'm recruiting you. Not only will there be no treasure, but you will also have to give me treasures and all the royal crystals you have." Lin Ling said lightly. Thousands of experts in this area all opened their mouths wide and were dumbfounded. They had joined Lin Ling's side. Not only would there be no treasure, but they would also have to pay for it? What kind of logic was this? Second, the foreign army you mentioned is actually not that many people. Lin Ling said again. So, you want to recruit us to fight against that foreign army? The old man immediately said, squinting his eyes. Not to resist but to strengthen. Because we are that foreign army. However, Lin Ling's next sentence directly made the old man's mouth open. He was so shocked that 3 duck eggs could be stuffed in. Because he thought that Lin Ling's purpose of recruiting people was to fight against that foreign army. Previously, he even praised Lin Ling for his ambition and ideas. But who knew that the foreign army was this group of people? Third, in fact, we are the Lin Ling that you are looking for. Lin Ling's words were not going to stop until they were shocked to death. As soon as he finished speaking, the whole mountain and wilderness fell silent. Everyone's mouths also opened even wider, so wide that 5 duck eggs could be stuffed in. Some martial artists who were slower to react were even more confused. Because they had always thought that the foreign army that suddenly appeared was to compete with them for business and to capture Lin Ling. But who knew that this foreign army was formed by Lin Ling? This result was simply 180 degrees different from what they had guessed. As for the old man in the lead, his old face was flushed red. Previously, he had revealed a look of confidence, but now it seemed that all his guesses were wrong. You are Lin Ling? Then the old man pointed at Lin Ling, his face full of disbelief, because he also did not expect that Lin Ling, who had been plundering for 3 years, would appear in front of him. This unexpected surprise was too unexpected. It's the real deal. Lin Ling nodded slightly, the corners of his mouth curling up, revealing a sinister smile. Ha ha ha. I heard that you have a precious treasure on you that can make an ordinary cultivator become a divine fetus. Is that true? The old man was ecstatic, even shouting excitedly to the sky. I never thought that I, Lord Lu, would have a day like this. The heavens do not disappoint those who wait. After waiting for so many years, I finally have a divine fetus. In his excitement, his old eyes became moist. He did not consider whether he was a match for Lin Ling, because the 3 years of plundering and searching had made him subconsciously think that Lin Ling was severely injured and could not withstand a single blow. Moreover, this news was released by the Spirit Nation, so it should be accurate. Taking a step back, if Lin Ling was as fierce as before, why did he hide for 3 years? That's great. I heard that he has a lot of indigo spiritual flowers. I want one. Equally. Chapter 4135. The Whereabouts of the Creation Alliance. You really know how to take advantage of others. The current Lin Ling is no longer a trial taker. He's just a heavily injured old ghost. Excited voices drifted out from all over the mountains and plains. Everyone's eyes were red, and their bodies were trembling with excitement. Some of the warriors who still had unresolved matters in their hearts knelt down and kowtowed to the sky, crying, Master, my strength can finally increase. Your great enmity can be avenged in the future. This was because the blue spiritual flower was too rare to be found in the 9 prefectures. It could only be found in the Spirit Nation. Even if he didn't use it himself, he could still earn a huge sum of money by auctioning it in the 9 prefectures. Haha, Lin Ling, what else do you have to say now? After the old man called Duke Lu laughed heartily, he looked at Lin Ling with a burning gaze. All of you, call the Lord later. Lin Ling still had his hands behind his back. Are you a fucking idiot? What do you mean, Lord? I think he's seriously injured and has lost his mind. Everyone was stunned because Lin Ling simply didn't answer the question. Great heavenly flame. At this time Lin Ling also gave an answer. He stretched out his right hand and a golden flame spun in his palm, exuding the terrifying might of a human king. The moment this flame appeared, all of Lin Ling's subordinates felt their hearts tremble. They were so intimidated by the might of the human king that they almost knelt down. Of course, while they were shocked, they were also gloating at the group of people in front of them. Boom! Endless golden flames rained down, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. It was as if the world's first flame had rained down. The people in the flames were all stunned at this moment. Next, they were burned by the human king's flames. They did not even have the chance to cry out in pain before they were completely assimilated. This was the might of the great heavenly flame. My lord, you're amazing. Behind Lin Ling, Everyone's hearts trembled. To be able to subdue so many people in one move, this was the true means of a god. As for the woman who had followed Lin Ling from the beginning, her eyes were filled with worship. Crash. The golden flames disappeared as quickly as they appeared. Looking at the experts all over the mountain, they all smiled bitterly. At this moment they no longer had any desire to snatch the treasure. All they had was aggrieved and bitter. "My lord!" They all shouted in unison. Everything was as Lin Ling had said. In a while they could only call him Lord. "SS sir." That Lord Lu stuttered the most and almost cried. Was this really the heavily injured Lin Ling? It was as ferocious as a god. The spirit nation was indeed lying to them. "All right. Hand over all your monarch crystals." Lin Ling wasn't surprised by this outcome and spoke calmly. "I'll give it to you. This is all I have. Sir, please keep it well." Those experts painfully handed over their treasures and cried. This was because this was the first time they had encountered such a situation. They were being recruited and still had to pay? This Lin Ling is really unreasonable. However, although they were heartbroken, deep in their hearts, there was a thought that they had to hand it over. "Thank you." Lin Ling put away all the monarch crystals and evaluated them. Finally, he smiled with satisfaction. These monarch crystals were enough for his 5 dantians to break through. "Next, tell me the whereabouts of the Creation Alliance." Then Lin Ling said lightly. Everyone immediately scrambled to speak. After Lin Ling sensed something, he led a large number of people forward. Looking from afar, the large group of people and countless experts seemed to have gathered the 9 provinces' 10 evils in a short period of time. If the Spirit Kingdom were to find out that Lin Ling had used such a domineering method to recruit a powerful cultivator that they had tried so hard to recruit, they would be so angry that they would grit their teeth. At this moment in the north on a red wasteland, a large number of strange boulders stood there, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. They looked somewhat ferocious. These red boulders were densely packed with people. Some of them were chatting around the fire, while others were sitting cross-legged and cultivating. They were the Creation Alliance. "Senior Luchan, Lord Lin Ling is rushing over. I estimate that he will arrive within 3 days. Fire!" The scorching flames crackled as they burned. Everyone looked at the fire, and one of them laughed. "That kid has finally woken up. I've been worried for nothing. Ha ha." Hearing that, one of the middle-aged men let out a sigh of relief. Looking at his face, one could see that he had experienced the vicissitudes of life, and his eyes were bloodshot and tired. Of course, he was not the only one. The others were the same. However, while they were tired, their eyes were also filled with fighting spirit and tenacity. 3 years. 3 full years. They had to attract the attention of the entire spirit nation and the foreign martial artists. Naturally, this kind of life was not easy. It could be said that they were constantly on the move and had never rested for more than an hour in the same place. And that was not all. They were often surrounded and had to use all their strength to break out of the encirclement. Such difficult days lasted for 3 full years. If they were not the 9 states' 10 evils but another big force, they would have been wiped out long ago. Everything they did was to attract the attention of the enemy and buy time for Lin Ling. Fortunately, they had finally made it. Last time that kid was able to fight with the leader of the 9 states' 10 evils. Although it was a draw this time, he should not be afraid of the leader of the 9 states' 10 evils. Sigh. Senior Luchan laughed as he poked the fire with a stick. "That's for sure. Lord Lin Ling is not much weaker than Senior Luchan." Sigh. Next to him, someone immediately laughed. "That's good. Haha, after the death of Orochi, I have been lacking a strong helper. Lin Ling's rise is just the right time." Lu Chen nodded heavily. He glanced at the crowd and said, "Guys, these 3 years of suffering are finally over. With Lin Ling joining us, unless those old ghosts of the spirit nation come, we will not be afraid of them. Then when the 4 great gods come, this place will be opened and we will have won this battle." Haha. "Boss, we have persevered for 3 years. Why should we be afraid of a little more time?" Haha. "Lord Lin Ling is back. Our mission as bait is completed." Haha. Hearing this, everyone was undoubtedly very excited and excited. "Senior Luchan, a large number of experts are coming because we have stayed here for too long." Haha. But at this time a red eagle flew over from afar. As soon as it landed on the ground, it immediately turned into a human form. As soon as it finished speaking, the oppressive atmosphere quietly spread. The people who were still calm and relaxed a moment ago instantly entered battle mode. Obviously, they were already used to such unexpected events. Chapter 41:36. Encirclement. Who took the lead? Lu Chan narrowed his eyes and asked coldly as he looked at the newcomer. There are two powers. One of them is the true disciple of Miao Shan. They have summoned a large number of experts to come here. The other is the ancient demon tribe and the Tin Ghost tribe. The man that the red eagle had transformed into immediately said, "True inheritance of Miao Shan? That bitch Princess Tian is still the leader. Damn, that woman is not strong, but she has repeatedly used the name of Miao Shan's true inheritance to do things. In the past 3 years, she has brought us a lot of trouble. I heard that she also has a great enmity with Lin Ling. Boss, the ancient demons are here too." Everyone scrambled to speak. Towards that Princess Tian, they were also extremely angry in their hearts. Lu Chan stared at the bonfire in front of him and said indifferently, "The ancient demon tribe, the Tin Ghost tribe, the Tomb Guardian tribe, and the Immortal Temple almost wiped us out several times. They were the ones who secretly let us go. But this time they found us again. I'm afraid they won't let us go easily anymore." The bonfire in front of him flickered, and the light of the flames shone on his face, causing his expression to change constantly. They should be giving face to Senior Lin Ling, because it's said that Lin Ling has a deep relationship with them. Someone whispered, "Yes, but they have joined the Spirit Nation. They can let us go the first time, but the second time the Spirit Nation will be aware of it. Although I am not familiar with them, I am indebted to them for taking care of me. I don't want to make things difficult for them." Lu Chun sighed and said helplessly, "At the end of the day it was because the Spirit Nation was too powerful. Furthermore, as far as he knew, the great god of the Spirit Nation was about to descend. He just didn't know if it was true or not." "Then should we retreat?" Someone looked at Lu Chan and asked. Lu Chan shook his head. "This time is different. We can't retreat. Otherwise Lin Ling won't be able to find us. So let's wait here." "Shuring, how long will it take for those people to arrive?" "About 2 hours. The man transformed from the Red Eagle immediately said. He clearly had a powerful speed and had investigated many things in advance. "Everyone, rest for 2 hours and prepare for battle." Lu Chan stood up and looked at the exhausted crowd. There was a trace of guilt in his eyes. These people had followed them for so long and had never had a good rest. However, the war was coming again. However, if he could hold on for a moment longer, he would be able to see the boundless sea and sky. "Yes, boss." Everyone's eyes were boiling as they spoke. Next, everyone rested on the spot to recover their strength. However, in these 3 years they had been constantly fighting, and all the treasures they possessed had been used up. Coupled with the fact that they didn't have time to recover from their old injuries, their situation wasn't optimistic for the upcoming battle. 2 hours passed quietly. Rumble. In the distant sky, a huge ruby battleship flew over. Its speed was extremely fast, reaching the speed of 5,000 worlds. The warship was as big as a city, but with its incredible speed it was clearly a rare innate divine weapon. On the warship, a large number of experts stood there, looking into the distance. There they are. Someone smiled faintly. Through some mysterious means, they had found out the whereabouts of Lu Chan and the others. They're all like a bunch of drowning dogs. The people on the side laughed mockingly because a mirror appeared in front of them, and in the mirror was the appearance of Lu Chan and the others. However, everyone could see that Lu Chan and the others were extremely tired at the moment. Their world essence had not recovered at all. Naturally, they were not afraid of the Creation Alliance. How pitiful escaping for 3 years. If it were me, I would have killed myself long ago. Another person said coldly. His voice was filled with disdain and sarcasm. A starving camel is still bigger than a horse. Don't underestimate them. However, at this time a calm voice came from the side. A red-haired man held a long spear in his hand and looked calmly into the distance. Brother Red Maple is right. Looking at the red-haired man, many people stopped smiling and bowed politely. This was because they knew that this man was from the third-ranked Inaction Academy among the 36 academies. Moreover, he was one of the top 5 experts in the Shinsan Hall of this academy. His strength surpassed most of the city lords of the 36 main cities. Among the city lords, there were no more than 5 who were stronger than him. Will we be able to find out Lin Ling's whereabouts if we catch them? This Lin Ling is really lucky. Every time he's at his weakest, there's always someone protecting him. If we let him pass through this calamity, he might be able to fly again. At this time, a cunning and mean voice also sounded. Then, a beautiful woman walked over. It was Princess Tian. Even if he wasn't seriously injured, he might not be my match. I know he defeated the city lord, but I, Red Maple, have long been able to do that. The only thing that makes me afraid of him is his divine power. TSK, I'm really envious that he's a trial taker who can awaken divine power. I don't have such luck. Hearing Princess Tian's words, the man called Red Maple shrugged indifferently. However, there was a tinge of jealousy in his words. If it was in the past, you're indeed more powerful than him. However, Lin Ling is a freak. Every time we meet, his strength is much stronger than before. It's hard to say what his strength is now. Princess Tian shook her head. She had dealt with Lin Ling too many times, so she was very familiar with Lin Ling. What strength? He might still be seriously injured. You should know that a serious injury in the martial god realm can't be recovered in 2 or 3 years. It's impossible for him to recover in less than 100 years. Red Maple still smiled confidently. His eyes changed into 2 colors, which were extremely evil. Seeing how confident Red Maple was, Princess Tian didn't say anything more. However, she still didn't have much confidence in Red Maple. However, if it was that cold man, then everything was possible. She obviously thought of the cold man she had met outside. That man was covered in thunder and lightning and was a tyrant. He was the most handsome man she had ever seen in her life. He was also the most powerful martial artist with the power of thunder that she had ever seen. It was a pity that everything had turned into a dream. She would never see that man again. She didn't know when she would be able to repay him for saving her life. If you catch Lin Ling, God Miao's true inheritance will reward you. Moreover, the Spirit Nation will also reward you. Princess Tian suppressed her thoughts and gave her orders like a great empress. This time, she had come on behalf of God Miao's true inheritance. Naturally, God Miao's true inheritance had taken a fancy to some treasures of the Spirit Nation, and had made a deal with the Spirit Nation. The treasures that the Spirit Nation had were things that Jojo didn't have. Naturally, God Miao's true inheritance wouldn't miss this opportunity. However, this time the Creation Alliance is strange. They knew that we were coming, but they didn't run away. After that, the Heaven Princess said cautiously, "Maybe they're tired." Chapter 4137. We're on the same side. If Lu Chun was at his peak, he would only have 40% confidence. But now he was 80% confident. Who are you? As the Ruby battleship got closer and closer, an ancient aura finally rose from the Red Earth wasteland and blocked the Ruby battleship's speed. Lu Chun, the 9-lantern fish. I'm Hong Feng from Wuwei Academy. I'm here to meet you, one of the 10 evils of Jojo. Red Maple immediately leaped up from the Ruby battleship, and the spear in his hand transformed in midair. Red and white colors swept through the heavens and the earth. Ghosts wailed and howled in the sky and the earth. This was the divine embryo body. Although it was only at the Hotian realm, it clearly had a powerful background. Behind Red Maple, a huge ghost face appeared. It was about 100 meters long and it had 2 faces. One was smiling and the other was crying. It was a shocking sight. On the other hand, despite Red Maple's outstanding talent, his god force was not weak either. He even possessed a cultivation of the 9th layer martial god realm. Thus his strength was not to be underestimated. Wang! A red and white spear pierced through the void and swept forward. Rumble! A ferocious aura rose from the wasteland as a crescent blade, which was accompanied by a glaring glow, slashed out horizontally. The scimitar brought with it terrifying divine power. It was like a snake that stuck to the spear. Next, it took advantage of the situation and shot towards the owner of the spear. Humph! Seeing this, Hong Feng snorted coldly. The spear in his hand trembled, and a ferocious realm essence burst out, intimidating the curved blade. However, the fatal blade was also very powerful. The moment it was forced back, it immediately followed the boundary energy released by the spear to find a weak spot. As if it was following the flow, it once again approached Hong Feng. Then it looked at his neck and slashed. "Nine lanternfish, Lu Chun, you're too slow." Red Maple was not afraid at all. He immediately withdrew his spear and started swinging it with both hands. Reverse yin and yang. A powerful move was unleashed. A yin-yang windfire will appeared around Hong Feng's body, protecting him while attacking Lu Chun. "Retreat." Almost at the same time a voice resounded. Then a figure appeared in the distance. It was Lu Chun. At this moment he was slightly out of breath. The collision just now seemed short, but it had exhausted quite a bit of his world essence. "Go!" Red Maple's yin-yang windfire wheels grew larger and larger. In the end, the windfire wheels seemed to have turned into a yin-yang ghost face, which then came crashing down on Lu Chun. 9 lanterns. Seeing this, Lu Chun also knew that there was no way to avoid it. He activated his talent and the 9 lantern fish, which was famous throughout the 9 provinces, appeared. The huge demonic fish was like a mountain. 9 mysterious lanterns hung on the fish's head. When the fish opened its mouth, its fangs were shining. The light of the 9 lanterns converged, illuminating all directions. Rumble! The terrifying yin-yang windfire wheels were immediately blocked outside the light, unable to advance any further. In the end, an explosive sound was heard. After the violent explosion, a figure retreated 1,000 miles away. Then, he looked in front of him with a grave expression. This person was none other than Lu Chun. 9 lantern fish, Lu Chun, that's all you've got. Red Maple, on the other hand, was brandishing his spear with a heroic aura. In their first confrontation, he had clearly gained the upper hand. Brother Red Maple. Seeing the result of Red Maple's battle, the people on the Ruby warship cheered, knowing that with Lu Chun's defeat, the Creation Alliance is bound to collapse. Not bad. Even Princess Tian smiled with satisfaction. Boss! Boss! On the other hand, the people of the Creation Alliance and the Serpent Clan shouted worriedly. They knew that if their boss was at his peak, Red Maple would be nothing. Now, that kid had gained the upper hand and regarded himself as one of the 9 provinces' 10 villains. What other tricks do you have? Boss! Red Maple was undoubtedly very excited at this moment. He had indeed regarded himself as the leader of the 9 provinces' 10 villains. This was also the next goal that he had to surpass in his martial arts journey. Let me tell you, you can't escape even if you have wings. Behind us, there are 2 other 9 provinces' 10 villains. Their numbers and combat power are not something that you dying old dogs can resist. Boss! Then Red Maple spoke again. Kid, if you want to destroy my confidence with words, I have to say that you are still too naive. Hearing this, Lu Chun smiled and replied calmly. Although he knew that he was no match for Red Maple, as the oldest person in the 9 provinces, he was not someone who could be easily subdued. Stubborn fool. Red Maple sneered and was about to make a move when suddenly, a powerful aura surged from afar. Upon closer inspection, one could see a large number of experts rushing over from afar. Ha ha ha, did you see that? I told you that someone would come. Do you still believe me now? Seeing the group of experts that resembled tribulation clouds, Red Maple was shocked because he did not expect the ancient demon race to send out so many experts. Of course, he also thought that the ones who were truly shocked should be the Creation Alliance. The Creation Alliance should have completely given up by now. The truth was more or less the same. As the people of the Creation Alliance stared at the tribulation clouds in the distance, their faces darkened completely. They knew that a bloody battle was unavoidable. That's really fast, and they have sent out so many experts. They are really giving me Lu Chun face. Even Lu Chun squinted his eyes. At this moment on the Ruby warship, the people were naturally overjoyed. However, Princess Tian was frowning because she felt that something was wrong. Firstly, the direction that those people were coming from was not the same as the direction that the ancient demon race was coming from. Secondly, that group of people was even more numerous than the ancient demon race. Princess Tian, I've said it before. This time around, the Creation Alliance has nowhere to run. And Lin Ling's whereabouts will be revealed from their mouths as well. Seeing Princess Tian frowning, someone from the side said with a smile. However, as soon as he finished speaking, everyone saw that the group of powerhouses in the distance had all unleashed their talents. Then they launched their attacks and charged toward the Ruby battleship. Although the Ruby warship was fast, the activation process was fast. Before it was activated, its speed was even slower than the martial artists. Now that the Ruby warship had stopped, it was naturally in a state where it was not activated. This caused the martial artists on the warship to be like fleas as they screamed in panic. Oh my god! They seem to be targeting the wrong person. Hey, we're on the same side. However, not only did the attacks not stop, there were even more waves. Holy shit! Without a doubt, the experts on the warship jumped off one by one. Because if they did not run, they would be killed by the waves of powerful attacks. Fuck! Princess Tian could not help but curse. She had no choice but to abandon her precious warship and flee. Just as they disappeared, the terrifying shockwave of the realm energy arrived and destroyed the Ruby warship completely. Rumble! When the deafening roar was heard, even the people of the Creation Alliance were dumbfounded. A single thought rose in their minds. A dogfight. Chapter 4138. Lin Ling was here. What's going on? Ancient demonkin, have you all gone mad? Red Maple stared at the newcomer with an ugly expression. Who said I'm from the ancient demonkin? Amidst the endless sea of people ahead, a figure shot over like a comet. It was so fast that it had reached the speed of 10,000 worlds. Who are you? Hong Feng frowned and tightened his grip on his spear. He felt that something was wrong. However, the person who had come was too lazy to say any more nonsense. Instead, many people stared at the person who had come, their pupils trembling. Although the person had come very quickly, those who were familiar with the blue-robed figure knew that this was the trial taker Lin Ling that they had been looking for 3 years. It's him, Lin Ling. Princess Tian's jaw dropped. He's here. Lu Qin's entire body trembled in excitement. He was so excited that he kept licking his lips. 3 years ago, in order to save the Genesis Alliance, the blue-robed man had been severely injured. Because of this, the Genesis Alliance had protected him for 3 years. 3 years later, the blue-robed man completely awakened, as if a king had returned. What? He's Lin Ling? Hong Feng's expression changed drastically. However, when he came to his senses, 2 huge palms slammed down from the sky. It contained the power of the Bodhi Buddha god, ferocious realm essence, and unimaginable physical strength. This was the Bodhi-Dharma testimony. In your dreams. A ferocious pressure came crashing down, causing Red Maple's long hair to flutter in the wind. However, he coldly sneered. He had long since heard of the great name of trial challenger Lin Ling. Today was the perfect time to see just how strong he was. Moreover, he wanted to give Lin Ling a show of strength. Boom! The spear blocked horizontally, and the yin-yang ghost face appeared, attempting to block the palms in the sky. However, Lin Ling, who was in the sky, was like a shooting star. After his palms collided with the spear, he immediately bent it. Then a destructive force exploded from his palms, smashing Red Maple and his spear into the ground under the shocked gazes of Princess Tian and the others. Whoosh! A meteor crashed into the ground like a cannonball, shattering the earth and causing the earth to tumble like waves. And who are you? Almost at the same time, the blue-robed young man in the sky spat out a doubtful voice. And who are you? His words clearly carried a domineering air. From the beginning until now, he didn't have the time to care about who Hong Feng was. It was as if Hong Feng wasn't worth his attention. But who was Red Maple? He was one of the top 5 masters in the history of Wu Wei Academy, a master ranked in the top 100 on the heaven ladder on the divine list, and a young Tianhao whose strength was only inferior to the leader of 9 provinces' 10 evils. However, they couldn't even withstand a single blow. Lin Ling. After he recovered from his surprise, Lu Chun was the first to shout, and his eyes were filled with excitement. Senior Lu Chun, everyone. Lin Ling also looked at the Creation Alliance. After seeing that everyone was fine, he was finally relieved. However, with Lin Ling's eyesight, he could naturally see that the Creation Alliance was very tired at the moment. Obviously, in the past 3 years, Lin Ling had spent peacefully in the cave, but the Creation Alliance had attracted everyone's attention. Lin Ling would never forget the kindness of protecting them for 3 years. However, Lin Ling didn't say thank you. With his friendship with Lu Chan, saying thank you would be looking down on senior Lu Chan. Lin Ling. At this time a sharp voice suddenly rang out. The voice was mixed with resentment and anger. Lin Ling turned his head and saw that it was Princess Tian. Lin Ling obviously didn't have time to pay attention to this bitch. So far, he had found the Creation Alliance in the Orochi clan. Now, the only ones left were Longyang and Little South. Lin Ling naturally didn't want to pay attention to Longyang. That woman had protected Lin Ling before, and it was just a deal. Moreover, with Longyang's ability to survive, she should be fine. On the other hand, Little South was a Kurishin. Although she seemed a little naive, in fact she wasn't. However, in general she was a good person. Therefore, Lin Ling must find her and give the Kurishin an explanation. Rumble. While Lin Ling was thinking, the ground split open and a huge yin-yang ghost head appeared. It roared and a man floated out from the yin-yang ghost head. It was Red Maple. At this moment, his face was ferocious and there was a trace of anger in his eyes. He obviously didn't expect Lin Ling to be so powerful that he would suffer a loss in a single exchange. Although Lin Ling was a trial taker, he had always thought that Lin Ling was just a junior. Red Maple, kill him. Princess Tian gritted her teeth and shouted when she saw Red Maple appear. Don't worry, I will kill him. The long spear in Red Maple's hand danced and stirred up the yin-yang wind. He had a total of 15 strands of divine power. After all, Wang Shui only had 20 strands of divine power. Therefore, the gap between him and Wang Shui wasn't that big. Of course, Wang Shui wasn't powerful because of divine power, but because of the 8-9 demonic art. That was the reason why he wasn't weaker than the leader of the 9 states Fierce 10. Lin Ling, I didn't expect you to be Lin Ling. Red Maple looked coldly at Lin Ling. His eyes were burning with fighting spirit. I'm from Wuwei Academy. My name is... You don't have to introduce yourself. I'm really not interested. I fought too many opponents in my life. If I had to remember the name of every piece of trash, it would be a waste of my brain capacity. However, before Red Maple could finish, Lin Ling interrupted him. His face was calm and didn't look like he was joking at all. Perhaps before Lin Ling went to the stairway to God, Red Maple was indeed quite powerful. However, after meeting Lei Gong and improving after being severely injured, Lin Ling naturally didn't take Red Maple seriously. You're boasting shamelessly. Lin Ling's words were undoubtedly a great humiliation to Red Maple. After all, he was an expert on the stairway to God. How could he not be qualified to have his name remembered? Lin Ling has been in the limelight recently. That's why he's so arrogant. This is great. I'll take advantage of his carelessness and kill him. Sigh. Seeing Lin Ling's disdain, Princess Tian was undoubtedly delighted. She knew that although Lin Ling wasn't weak, Red Maple wasn't weak either. If Lin Ling underestimated his opponent, he might be defeated by Red Maple. One thought of yin, one thought of yang. When yin and yang combine, the underworld will open. Sigh. At this moment, an ancient voice rushed out of Red Maple's mouth. He had obviously activated his talent to the limit. Around his body, 2 rays of light, one red and one white, were circling around him. His robe fluttered and a powerful aura spread out. Yang flowering vines. Red Maple disappeared on the spot. A huge yin-yang ghost face appeared where he was standing and looked down at the earth and the sky mercilessly. Whoosh! A long spear with the speed of 10,000 realms, carrying a majestic divine energy and realm essence, shot towards Lin Ling. In midair, countless long spears appeared and dazzled everyone's vision. Whoosh! An invisible wind blew at the long hair of Princess Tian and the others, causing their eyes to light up. What a powerful spear! It was a godly spear. Chapter 4139. 6 Dantians in Unison. Apparently, many people knew that Red Maple's divine fetus was a righteous divine fetus. It was a Taoist talent, the Tao of Yin and Yang. It was specially designed to counter the Tao of the underworld. Then they stared at Lin Ling. Suddenly, they realized that Lin Ling was not moving at all. He was even shaking his head. Idiot! Seeing that, many people laughed sarcastically. In a battle between martial artists, momentum was extremely important if they were on par with each other. Now Red Maple's momentum was rising while Linling's was weak. He didn't even raise his momentum. What else could he be if he wasn't an idiot? Could it be that he's scared silly by Linling? Someone mocked. Heh, normally when this happens it's either because the gap is too big and the opponent's momentum makes him dizzy or… A powerful old man said calmly. Senior, what's that? The people around him were no doubt curious. Or he's very confident in himself and doesn't take his opponent seriously. He doesn't even need to use his momentum to fight. The old man laughed. Hearing that, the others laughed too. However, one of them narrowed his eyes and said suspiciously, however, does Linling belong to the latter and doesn't take Red Maple seriously? His words silenced everyone. However, they also shook their heads. The gap between Linling and Red Maple shouldn't be that big. Look, he. Right at this moment, another person spoke with shock, and he even pointed ahead. This also caused everyone to look over, and their bodies trembled one after another. Even Lu Chan and the Creation Alliance were in disbelief. After Linling shook his head, he took out a large number of royal crystals and refined them. Was this guy crazy? You're looking down on me. Red Maple was naturally enraged when he saw how arrogant and disdainful Yi Shiwen was. After practicing martial arts for so many years, this was the first time he had met an opponent who looked down on him. However, Linling still ignored him. He shook his head in disdain because Hong Feng's attack was only 10,000 world speed. Linling, on the other hand, was already 10,000 world speed. If he fused his innate talents, he would exceed 10,000 world speed. Therefore, it wasn't that Linling was arrogant. It was just that Red Maple wasn't good enough for him. Wang! The tyrannical song sword appeared in his hand, and his physical strength and realm essence surged out. Linling planned to use this method to counter Hong Feng's attack. Meanwhile, his other hand was still sprinkling out sovereign crystals and refining them continuously. Boom! Finally, that ferocious long spear finally arrived. But after colliding with Linling's tyrannical song sword, it was actually unable to advance even an inch. This guy is ridiculously strong. This scene made Lu Chen gasp. He didn't expect Linling to be able to block it. This also meant that Linling's injuries should have been completely healed, and his cultivation should have improved. After all, when Linling battled with Wang Shui, he was already on par with the leader of the 9 states' 10 evils. Now, he was probably only one step away. Hong Feng's expression kept changing as he looked at Hong Feng. His all-out attack was actually blocked by Linling? If Linling had blocked it with all his strength, he could still accept it. However, not only did Linling not use all his strength, but he was also refining sovereign crystals while fighting with him. Was this telling Hong Feng that there was a huge gap between him and Linling? At this moment, Linling was still in the posture of pointing his sword forward. He closed his eyes and sensed the changes in his dantian. Bang! All of a sudden he took a step forward. The ferocious realm essence and physical strength were comparable to the power of a god. He simply and violently bent Hong Feng's long spear. In your dreams! Hong Feng yelled when he saw Linling closing his eyes. The giant yin-yang demon head in the distance arrived and activated the power of the godly embryo to assist Hong Feng. Unfortunately, although the power of the godly embryo could suppress the ultimate desolated body, it had no effect on Linling, who possessed a few godly embryos. Rumble! Meanwhile, Linling's dantian had finally leveled up. His second dantian had reached the 3rd level martial god realm. Following this, it provided Linling with abundant realm essence like a surging river. Bang! Linling took another step forward. Crack, crack, crack. The long spear was bent even further. Rumble! His third dantian leveled up. Another step. Crack, crack, crack. The long spear had turned into a bow and arrow. The crowd in the distance stared with their eyes wide open. They did not expect Linling to surpass Hong Feng by so much. It was simply a one-sided battle. Hong Feng's face reddened too. Not only was he infuriated, he was also forced to resist Linling's overwhelming strength. He discovered that even though Linling's cultivation was only at the 3rd level martial god realm, his realm essence and strength were comparable to a 9th level martial god realm cultivator. To him, all of this was too strange. Initially, even though he claimed that Linling was impressive, he knew that Linling must be quite capable since he was able to become a participant of the trial. However, he was confident that his strength was only slightly weaker than his. However, he now discovered that Lin Ling was toying with him like a child. Rumble. Meanwhile, his fourth and fifth Dantian leveled up simultaneously. His 6 Dantians had all reached the 3rd level martial god realm. In other words, Hong Feng was facing 6 3rd-level martial god realm experts at the same time, who all possessed the godly embryo flesh. 6 Unifying Genius. Blood began to drip from Hong Feng's skin. His teeth were trembling too. 6 Unifying Genius. It was a common saying among the cultivators ranked in the top 100 of the god ranking. It implied that a powerful genius was able to fight someone whose cultivation was higher than him. 6 Unifying Genius meant that he was able to fight someone whose cultivation was higher than him by 6 levels. Hong Feng was a 9th-level martial god realm cultivator, while Lin Ling was only a 3rd-level martial god realm cultivator. Despite the difference of 6 levels, Lin Ling was still able to defeat him. Thus he was known as the 6 Unifying Genius. It was extremely rare to see a 6 Unifying Genius on the god ranking's heavenly stairway. Normally, it was extremely rare to see someone with the title of 3 Unifying Genius. As he held the spear with trembling hands, Lin Ling finally opened his eyes. His eyes flickered with excitement. "That's it?" he asked. Hong Feng clenched his teeth. He could not answer the question. "Piss off then." Lin Ling's sword shuddered as he fully unleashed his strength. A tremendous force surged toward Hong Feng, who could not resist it any longer. He was fired into the ground like a meteor. Rumble. The ground shuddered as dust sprang into the sky. "We've lost." Princess Tian and the others suffered a great blow after seeing the outcome. They glanced at Lin Ling and discovered countless experts standing behind Lin Ling. Many of them were engulfed in golden flames. It was obvious that they were not weak at all. How could they possibly make their moves now? "Impressive, you've managed to gather a bunch of experts in such a short period of time. They are comparable to the 10 evils of the 9 continents. TSK Lin Ling, I can't see through your capabilities." Chapter 4140. 1 against 2. Not too far away from him was an expressionless woman. She wore a black robe, and she was cold and emotionless. When the two of them appeared, Princess Tian and the others were the first to be shocked. Red Maple, who was defeated by Lin Ling, was also floating in the air while holding his injured chest. He looked at the group of people with a complicated expression. They knew that these people were the ancient demon clan and the she-ghost clan of the 9 prefectures' 10 evils. These 2 magnates were the most ancient existences in the 9 continents. They were also existences akin to demons. In the current era, their strength was comparable to Mount Tai and Big Dipper. However, compared to the ancient demon race, the she-ghost race had very few people. They only had 1 leader, but still, no one dared to underestimate her. This was because many people knew that when they really needed people, the leader's body could release a large number of experts. They're finally here. Lu Chun was no exception when facing 2 of the 9 prefectures' 10 evils. Leaders, the Creation Alliance and the Orochi clan are all here. Lin Ling is also here. As long as you catch them, you can return to the Spirit Nation and report back. At this time, Princess Tian said coldly, looking at Lin Ling with a hint of madness in her eyes. Now she wanted to see how Lin Ling was going to fight. She had already secretly vowed that no matter what, she would definitely kill Lin Ling today. "Lin Ling, you won't be able to escape even if you have wings." Afterward, Princess Tian turned to Lin Ling and said, "Hong Feng lost, but I'm still here. I swear a blood oath that if I don't kill you today, I won't return to Miao God's true teachings." Hearing that, Lin Ling looked at her indifferently. However, he ignored her and continued looking at the ancient demon race beings. At the same time, the 2 ancient demonkin leaders also stared at Lin Ling, especially the cold woman. Her merciless gaze flickered. This was because she had met Lin Ling and helped Lin Ling. At the same time, she also knew that the only successor of their Tin Ghost clan, Majin Tianzi, was by Lin Ling's side and had a very good relationship with Lin Ling. But now she wanted to kill Lin Ling. This undoubtedly made her feel a little complicated. At the same time, the middle-aged man from the ancient demon race was feeling conflicted as well. "You disappeared for 3 years. I heard that you were seriously injured. I didn't expect you to recover after 3 years. How surprising." After a short moment, the middle-aged man said calmly, 3 years ago, Lin Ling had battled Wang Shui in Spirit Light City. They hadn't witnessed it with their own eyes, but they'd heard of it. Towards this, they naturally had some suspicions. This was because young demon lord Ma Jin Tianzi and Lin Ling were people of the same generation, but none of them had reached such heights. He's willing to fight the two leaders. What friend? He's the young master's brother. However, the young master often praises this brother in front of the leaders. Seeing him today, he's really extraordinary. I heard that Lin Ling's strength is comparable to the leaders of the 9 province 10 evils. However, he's fighting the two leaders now. Fortunately, he only has to withstand 300 moves. Although they were from different camps, anyone could tell that they were praising Lin Ling and were speaking up for Lin Ling. This bunch of beasts. Princess Tian cursed under her breath. Then, she sneered and shouted, Lin Ling, it seems like you don't know what it means to be the leader of the 9 province 10 evils. You think you can fight these seniors? You're overestimating yourself. That's right, that's right. At the side, Hong Feng stroked his chest and added insult to injury. Of course, when he said this, he also felt embarrassed because Lin Ling dared to fight the leaders. What about him? At this moment, Lin Ling pursed his lips and didn't hide anything. He muttered to himself, I'm sorry, but one of the leaders of the 9 province 10 evils has died in my hands. It's the Gu King from the land of eternal rest. As soon as he said this, Princess Tian's previous clamor was immediately silenced as if she had been slapped in the face. Even the two leaders were shocked. They naturally knew that the Gu King had disappeared, but they didn't expect him to be killed by Lin Ling. You little brat. The middle-aged man laughed bitterly because he knew what kind of ability it meant to be able to kill the Gu King. Moreover, the fact that Lin Ling had mentioned this matter was also a reminder to them not to underestimate Lin Ling. If that's the case, I have no choice but to go all out. Chapter 41-41. The fusion of 6 divine embryos. Obviously, after living in the 9 prefectures for so many years, this was the first time they had seen such an outstanding junior like Lin Ling. Come and fight. Lin Ling didn't plan on wasting any more time. 2 swords appeared in his hands. The strength of his 6 stanchions and his body that had just broken through quietly gathered together. Their gazes were fixed on the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was calm as he stood in the air. His tyrannical demonic aura seethed around him, as though he was an immovable wisdom king. There were no flaws. Lin Ling instantly sensed his opponent's aura. It was watertight and impregnable, as expected of the leader of the ancient demon tribe. Although Wang Shui's strength was comparable to theirs, he was still not one of the 9 states' 10 evils. Most importantly, there were a total of 2 such experts. You're a junior, and we're 2 against 1, so you should make the first move. At this moment, the middle-aged man said indifferently, Thanks for letting me win. Lin Ling did not act pretentiously. With a shake of his 2 swords, he gathered his strength and unleashed a simple double sword thrust. Of course, although it looked like a simple move, it could be used to attack or defend. Not bad. Seeing this, the middle-aged man nodded slightly. He didn't hide his strength, and his demonic aura seemed to have solidified as it poured out. His figure became illusory. He seemed to be in the same place, but he disappeared like water ripples. In the blink of an eye, he also appeared in front of Lin Ling. Lin Ling's eyes narrowed. What incredible speed! He probably reached 20,000 world speed. 9 divinities demon king. First style, tigers roar in the forest. A palm shattered the void and grabbed at Lin Ling's 2 swords. In midair, the palm suddenly transformed into a huge divine tiger demonic elephant. The tiger opened its mouth and bit at Lin Ling's sword. Clang! The sound of metal colliding could be heard. Lin Ling immediately sensed that the power of the divine tiger was not much weaker than his. Lin Ling was certain that the middle-aged man was at the peak of the martial god realm. In terms of world essence, he was stronger than Lin Ling. Fortunately, Lin Ling had the strength of 100,000 worlds. He could barely hold his own against the middle-aged man. However, compared to Lin Ling's shock, that middle-aged man was clearly even more shocked. He had long heard that Lin Ling's cultivation level wasn't high, but his realm essence was thick, surpassing those at the same cultivation level. Seeing him today, it was indeed true. Bodhi testimony. Lin Ling channeled the power of the dual Bodhi god into the two swords, causing them to vibrate and break away from the divine tiger's bite. Just as Lin Ling retreated, the middle-aged man followed closely behind. He raised both of his palms up high and suddenly slapped towards Lin Ling. 9 Divinities Demon King, second style. Ape King Earth Hammer. Crash. The palm leaf fan-like arms were like the arms of a divine ape as they enveloped Lin Ling, causing Lin Ling's eyes to flicker slightly. Golden flames erupted from his shoulders, forming a ripple of power as they bounced back. This was the divine power rippling from the human king's flame. Borrowing the divine power, Lin Ling's two swords were like dragonflies skimming the surface of the water. He touched the giant arms in the sky, and his entire body floated back like a willow catkin. You have rich battle experience. You don't want to meet force with force, but I will force you to meet force with force. That middle-aged man laughed heartily, his battle intent aroused. The more Lin Ling wanted to retreat, the more he wanted to madly attack. 9 Divinities Demon King. Third style. Qilin King carries the mountain. Boom! Terrifying waves of air rushed out from his body, and a fire Qilin King appeared, roaring as if summoning thousands of demons. This fire Qilin King's 4 limbs smashed the sky, and then it galloped in the sky. Wherever it passed, it left behind a beautiful trail of flames in the sky. Its speed was so fast that it actually reached the speed of 30,000 worlds. And that dazzling speed made Lin Ling's eyes narrow. He didn't know if this was the middle-aged man's full speed, but he knew that his own speed was definitely not comparable to the other parties. Therefore Lin Ling didn't plan to compete in speed. Go! The two swords in his hands pointed forward, and the swords shot out like meteors. Behind them, a golden vortex of flames appeared in Lin Ling's palm, and he pushed it lightly. Great heavenly flames. The two swords were mixed with ferocious divine power, and they blasted forward like rotten wood. Looking from afar, the golden flame seemed to be able to topple mountains and overturn seas, and within it, a human king's Dharma idol appeared, looking majestic without being angry. This also shocked the onlookers from afar. They didn't expect Lin Ling to be able to resist that middle-aged man for so long. Crackle! The two swords shot towards the fire Qilin King's eyes, but the fire Qilin King was intelligent. It closed its eyes and blocked the two swords. But at this moment, the great heavenly flames arrived, burning continuously, and began to assimilate. However, the leader of the ancient demon race was indeed powerful, and this assimilation speed was obviously very slow. Kiske is 30 streaks of divine power. In the flames, the middle-aged man sighed, and there was a hint of shock in his voice. What 30 streaks of divine power? Without a doubt, Red Maple's eyeballs were about to fall out. Only now did he know how big the gap was between him and Lin Ling, because he only had 15 streaks of divine power. No wonder Lin Ling didn't even care to know his name. Demonic hag, are you still not going to attack? At this moment, the middle-aged man's voice floated out from the golden flames. Whoosh! 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 Just as his voice fell, threads cut through the sky, slashing towards Lin Ling. These threads were formless and colorless, but they were incomparably sharp. This was because everyone could see that the vast sky was being cut into pieces like broken glass. Moreover, from the surface area that was cut, these threads were like a birdcage surrounding Lin Ling and constantly shrinking. Innate talent fusion. Lin Ling's soul power was strong, and he naturally sensed the danger. He no longer held back and unleashed his full strength. Boom! A ferocious aura exploded from Lin Ling's body. The new innate talent fusion was obviously more terrifying than before. This was because these were 6 divine embryos. If an ordinary person had 1 divine embryo, they would already be a titled god. But Lin Ling had 6 divine embryos. Demon jellyfish. Double dragon innate talent. Savage chaos. Flame of the human monarch. Lightning pool physique. With the new innate talent fusion, Lin Ling was no longer a monster, but an awe-inspiring divine king. His 4 limbs turned into golden dragon claws, and dragon horns grew from his head. He alternated between dragon and human forms, but behind him, a ferocious aura surged. The chaotic body provided a powerful defense, and on his shoulders, a pair of wings formed from countless tentacles appeared, giving him unparalleled speed. and the human monarch's flame appeared on his body, burning him, making him come like a flame. Crackle. Finally, the lightning pool physique formed a terrifying region of lightning tribulation around him, like a sea urchin. This was the divine might of the berserker realm. Rumble. Just after the innate talent fusion, a ferocious explosion sounded around him. Clearly, the power of Linling's divine embryos was colliding with the threads, trying to break out of the cage and escape. Seeing Linling go all out, everyone present was shocked, because from the aura that Linling erupted, they could guess that the current Linling was not much weaker than the leader of the 9 states 10 vicious. Good. Chapter 41-42. Boiling Battle Intent. This is Linling's full strength. Red Maple was so scared that his face turned pale. He had a feeling that Linling could kill him with just a twitch of his eyebrows. Other than the top 3 Academy's strongest experts, no one in the 36 academies could be his match. Most importantly, this Linling was a rising star. He's definitely ranked in the top 70 on the stairway to heaven on the divine list. He mumbled incoherently to himself. However, compared to their surprise, Princess Tian looked as if she had been struck by lightning. Her eyes stared at the lightning around Linling's body, and her mouth was wide open, because back then, it was a cold man with white lightning who had saved her. That man had left an endless shadow in her heart, cold and unruly, like lightning dominating the world. But now she realized that Linling also had the same power of white lightning. Could it be? Her body trembled as if she couldn't believe what was happening in front of her. Or perhaps she didn't want to admit what was happening in front of her. The insignificant Linling from back then, the lowly martial artist from the 9 states, had quietly merged with the man she admired the most. It was him. It was all him. This was the man that Princess Tian hated so much? This was the man that Princess Tian wanted to kill as soon as possible? God, why are you playing with me? Stunned Princess Tian finally cried, because the idol she had been looking forward to finally revealed himself, but it was Linling. This was a huge blow to her. Her enemy had turned into a hero. Fuck you. Until now, she didn't even know if she could kill Linling. However, no one was paying attention to her at this moment. Instead, they were staring at the earth-shattering battle in the sky. Break. After Linling's innate talent had fused, his physical strength had reached 150,000 units of boundary energy. Coupled with the power of the 6 divine fetuses, his strength had more than doubled. He kept punching his fists in all directions, gathering all his strength to break the cage. Rumble. The sky kept cracking, shattering, and merging as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. Looking into the distance, the black-dressed woman's face was cold. Her 10 fingers were like tentacles dancing in front of her. Clearly, she was controlling those threads. However, her eyes were somewhat solemn. This was because she could sense that Linling's tyrannical strength was using the most violent force to break her cage. Old demon is still not enough. She coldly spat out a sentence. The person she was referring to was the middle-aged man from the ancient demon tribe. However, the latter was entangled by the flame of the human monarch and would not be able to escape in the short term. Rumble. On the other hand, Linling's attacks were like a violent storm, causing the threads to become chaotic. Suddenly a flaw appeared. A part of the cage-like threads loosened, revealing a gap. This is not good. The woman in black roared, and the pinky on her right hand danced. In an instant it moved 393 million times in an attempt to fill the gap. However, it was clear that her movements were too slow. This was because Linling's soul force was powerful. While he was attacking, he was also sensing the hole in the cage. Now that he had sensed the hole, he immediately sent out the vines on his arm. Little Kunlun. Under Linling's command, the vines grew crazily and occupied the entire cage. Several vines rushed out of the cage, but they were quickly cut into pieces. How is it? Everyone stared intently at the sky and discovered that a primitive forest had appeared in the sky. Ka. Of course, the primitive forest was quickly cut into pieces. This made the people of the Creation Alliance extremely nervous. Could it be that Linling was dead? Only the black-dressed woman knew that Linling had rushed out of the cage. This was because several vines had rushed out of the cage, and Linling was one of them. Although she had quickly fixed the hole, She believed that in a battle between experts, such a small hole was actually as big as the ocean in the eyes of others. Obviously, an expert like Lin Ling would not miss such a big hole. As soon as the thought came to her mind, a gust of wind rushed toward her. By the time the black-dressed woman reacted, a ferocious punch had broken through the void and reached her body. Rumble! This punch could cause the sun and moon to dim, and it had the power to move mountains and fill seas. This was probably the same as the ancient battle between the gods. Boom! The black-dressed woman's body suddenly exploded into pieces. However, the pieces quickly gathered together in the distance like a puppet and finally turned into the black-dressed woman again. However, this time, she looked at Lin Ling with a hint of respect in her eyes. Almost at the same time, a figure walked out of the golden sea in the distance. Although he looked a little battered, he was obviously safe and sound. He was the leader of the ancient demon race. The corners of his mouth curled into a bloodthirsty smile, and his eyes were full of fighting spirit. Amazing! You are not at a disadvantage against the two of us. Hearing that, Lin Ling sneered and said, I was just lucky. Again. The middle-aged man immediately rushed toward Lin Ling. Following his footsteps, tens of thousands of divine elephants galloped behind him. Puppet Empire. Seeing that, the black-dressed woman also made her move. She sat cross-legged in the sky, and needles, grass, wood, feathers, and other things appeared in her hands. She started to make dolls in the air. She threw one after the other. Chapter 41-43. Surrender. At this moment, Lin Ling turned his head slightly and smiled. Although he was defending against the other attacks with his two swords, he suddenly roared, "Scram!" This roar was accompanied by a dragon's breath, as if the dragon god was roaring. A storm came, causing the woman's expression to change drastically. With a boom, her body was blown into nothingness. However, after a while, the people saw that it was a puppet that had died. In the distant sky, the woman was still sitting cross-legged, but she was clearly injured. His strength has surpassed the leader of the 9-province 10 evils. She stared at Lin Ling and said coldly. As her words fell, the people felt as if 100 elephants were galloping through their hearts. I admit it too. The middle-aged man from the ancient demon race nodded solemnly. He knew that if not for this, Lin Ling would not have been able to withstand their combined attacks. Is that all? However, Lin Ling seemed to have gone crazy at this moment. His eyes were red and filled with fighting spirit. In his body, the energy formed by the refining of the sacred stones flowed into his limbs and bones. The energy of divinity was rapidly forming. 36 streaks of energy of divinity, 37, 38, 39. Originally, Lin Ling would not have been able to refine the sacred stones at such a speed. However, everything was as the giant ghost had said. Lin Ling had successfully refined a large amount of indigo spiritual flowers. Coupled with his strong physical body, refining the sacred stones was as easy as drinking water. This. Sensing that Lin Ling's strength was still increasing, the middle-aged man was stunned. Damn, this guy is really sick. He can still increase his strength after unleashing such powerful strength. Swoosh. As the energy of divinity increased, the first thing that changed was the army of puppets. They were completely destroyed by Lin Ling's sword. Although the puppets regrouped, it was obvious that they could not withstand Lin Ling's sword. 40. Almost at the same time, Lin Ling's energy of divinity reached 40 streaks. The sword in front of him slashed fiercely. Rumble. The countless sacred elephants were all slashed horizontally. With the sacred elephant's thighs as the dividing line, they were all split into two. Clang! The moment the sword fell, the sword in Lin Ling's hand completely shattered into pieces. The true inheritance dark sword had collapsed. The dark sword was originally a post-celestial weapon, and although it was stronger than ordinary post-celestial weapons, it still couldn't fuse too much of Lin Ling's power. A hint of reluctance appeared in Lin Ling's eyes. The dark sword was Li Xiaoyao's sword, but now it was broken. This meant that in the future, the dark sword would no longer be able to accompany Lin Ling. Old friend, rest well. If I, Lin Ling, become a god in the future, I'll help you become a god. Lin Ling waved his right hand and collected all the fragments. Next, Lin Ling held the sword with both hands and danced like a spinning top. forming a series of ferocious sword slashes that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. The 112th move. The 113th move. The 155th move. Time passed just like that. After an unknown amount of time, a long sigh finally sounded. We've lost. 300 moves have passed. The ancient demon race's middle-aged man kept his realm essence and stood in the sky, shaking his head. Lin Ling, you've won. The woman in black said helplessly. She and the ancient demon race's middle-aged man looked at each other, and they could see the shock in each other's eyes. Lin Ling was a member of the younger generation back then and had a close relationship with the younger generation of the ominous forces. They had intended to take care of this person as a senior. However, who would have thought that in the days after the incident, they would constantly hear of Lin Ling's name, which had shaken the 9 states and the final world. In the end, this junior had reached a point where he couldn't be ignored. This also made them sigh with emotion. Their disciple had followed such a good boss. However, this sigh didn't last long. Now this junior was on the same level as them, and his strength was even stronger than theirs. Most importantly, this kid hadn't even needed 5,000 years to grow from a junior back then to his current strength. In the world of the strong, strength reigns supreme. Now I don't know if I should call you brother or junior. The ancient demon race's middle-aged man smiled bitterly. According to seniority, Lin Ling and the ancient demon race were brothers, so he should call him senior. However, Lin Ling was stronger than him, so he would be embarrassed to call him senior. Senior, what was in the past will be the same in the future. Lin Ling stood there quietly and smiled. Sigh, if only our ancient demon race had your strength. That kid often praised you in front of me. At first I thought he was bragging, but now it seems like I was blind. The middle-aged man smiled bitterly again. Now you can leave. The woman in black said with a smile. 300 moves had passed. Even if the experts of Spirit Nation were here, they wouldn't have any objections. After all, Lin Ling had taken on 2 opponents by himself. By the way, have you seen a girl named Little South? Seeing that the 2 seniors were about to leave, Lin Ling quickly asked. The trial taker is Little South. Upon hearing this, the middle-aged man chimed in, and Lin Ling hurriedly nodded upon seeing this. She's with Han Xia. The middle-aged man explained. Currently, Lord Ning and the others have all left. Spirit Light City is now under the control of the Dragon Spirit. I don't know what sort of agreement Han Xia and the Dragon Spirit have reached, but Han Xia is now helping the Dragon Spirit. Moreover, he has recruited many masters, such as the Duan family's Duan Wuhan, the 36 academies, and the powerhouses of the final world's great dukes. Could it be that the rumors are true? However, Han Xia is a trial taker. If he helps Spirit Nation, isn't that a betrayal? Lin Ling frowned. The so-called trial takers are sometimes focused on benefits. When the Spirit Nation gives more benefits than the gods, some people will turn around and target the gods. The middle-aged man said indifferently, of course. I'm not too sure if Han Xia did it willingly, or perhaps he was forced to do it. If you want to find the trial taker, Little Nan, then go to Spirit Light City. Have you seen Longnyang? Lin Ling asked again. I haven't seen Longnyang. For the past 3 years she has been missing. The middle-aged man shook his head. Lin Ling's eyes flashed. He knew that Longnyang was not a simple person. She would not be caught so easily. Thank you, senior. After Lin Ling received the information he needed, he thanked the man. Lin Ling, the Spirit Nation isn't simple. It's said that a great god from the Spirit Nation is about to awaken, and the Spirit Nation values you greatly. Although it's not convenient for me to persuade you to join the Thunder God's side, the Spirit Nation welcomes you at any time. The middle-aged man looked at Lin Ling with a complicated expression. Chapter 41-44. The Change in Spiritual Light City. Senior, I hope that when we meet again in the future, we will still be friends. Although we serve different masters, let's not show any mercy. Lin Ling took a deep breath and said calmly. His words made the middle-aged man and the woman in black tremble. Then they looked at Lin Ling with mixed feelings. If possible, they did not want to be enemies with Lin Ling. The next time we meet, I'm afraid we won't be able to take more than 3 moves from you. Goodbye. The middle-aged man from the ancient goblin clan cupped his hands at Lin Ling. Then, He waved his hand and left with a large number of people. The woman in black nodded at Lin Ling and said, "Help me take care of Ma Jin Tianzi." "Thank you." She did not say much and left after saying that. The 9 prefectures 10 evils came and left quickly. If it were not for the fact that the ground was in ruins, no one would have guessed that such a great battle had taken place here. He actually won. Princess Tian and Red Maple were still looking at Lin Ling with trembling eyes. Previously, they thought that the 9 prefectures 10 evils would go easy on him. However, the previous battle had made them realize that Lin Ling was so powerful that there was no need to go easy on him. "Princess Tian, you have an irreconcilable enmity with him. Should we kill him?" Red Maple suddenly looked at Princess Tian and asked. Although Lin Ling was very powerful, they would not be able to swallow their pride if they ran away with their tails between their legs. In particular, Princess Tian had sworn in the name of Miao Shan's true teachings that she would kill Lin Ling no matter what. If Princess Tian went back on her words, Miao Shan's true teachings' reputation would be ruined. Others would think that Miao Shan's true teachings were afraid of Lin Ling. Therefore, many people looked at Princess Tian. The Genesis Alliance and the Orochi clan were also looking at Lin Ling. Although Princess Tian also had a large number of experts on her side, they were already exhausted. If they really fought head-on, the Genesis Alliance would definitely suffer losses. However, there were quite a few powerhouses behind Lin Ling, and they all looked like dragons and tigers. Therefore, if the two sides clashed, Miao Shan's true inheritance would not be able to gain the upper hand. Wow! But at this moment, a loud cry suddenly sounded. The sound also gave everyone a fright. When they looked over, they realized that the one crying was actually Princess Tian. What was going on? "I hate you." Princess Tian glared angrily at Lin Ling. But there was a complicated light in the depths of her eyes. Then he turned around and ran. What the fuck is going on? I don't know, but why does Princess Tian's "I hate you to death" sound like a couple talking? Who cares? Now that Princess Tian has left, let's go. At this moment, there were countless experts in the spiritual light city. In a large hall of the spiritual palace, the dragon spirit stood there indifferently. Around her were experts from the 9 prefectures, 10 ferocious beasts, the immortal temple, the great demon god, the tomb guardian clan, and other experts. Their gazes were fixed on the palace. There was a white light blooming, forming a 5-meter large ball of light. It was extremely dazzling. From within the ball of light, a painful sound was transmitted. If one looked carefully, one could vaguely see a figure curled up like a shrimp. "Han Xia, this is Lord Ning's reward for you. The heart of a demigod." The dragon spirit narrowed her eyes as she indifferently looked at the ball of light and said. In the depths of her eyes, there was clearly a trace of jealousy. This was because she knew what the heart of a demigod was. It was said that it was the divine embryo of a mid-god and was incomparably powerful. From another perspective, it was also the divine embryo of a god. Between a god and a god, the former was obviously more powerful. And this heart of a demigod was something that even the dragon spirit didn't have. Although as a reward, Han Xia had joined the spiritual nation. However, he was just a trial taker. Even if he joined the spiritual nation, he shouldn't have received such a reward. Thump, thump. At this moment, the sound of an invisible heartbeat was transmitted. In the hall, everyone's expression changed. They could feel that their hearts were beating violently and uncontrollably. So powerful. In terms of innate talent, this divine embryo is already beyond the postnatal realm. The Tomb Guardian clan's elder frowned and said, "Rumble." Almost at the same time, a terrifying sea urchin light bloomed. This was the divine might of the Berserker realm. At this moment, the leader of the 9 prefectures' 10 ferocious beasts couldn't withstand it. He retreated with a trace of shock in his eyes. Chapter 41-45. The Heart of a Demigod. Currently, only the 4 gods knew the method. However, Han Xia was once one of the 4 gods, so he had the means to comprehend the divine power. Now, he had obtained the spirit nation's heart of a demigod. It could be said that he had obtained benefits from both sides. It was no wonder that Han Xia had joined the spirit nation. What a lucky guy. Even the dragon spirit had an envious look on her face because she didn't know how to use divine might. Of course, there was a look of disdain in her eyes. Han Xie had been captured by E-City's city lord and should have died. However, this guy had suddenly begged for mercy and was recognized by Lord Ning, allowing him to join the Spirit Nation. Therefore, no matter how high Han Xie's position in the Spirit Nation was, to Long Ling, Han Xie was a coward who was afraid of death. Boom! A terrifying heartbeat passed through the palace and into Spiritual Light City. Bang! 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 In Spiritual Light City, the hearts of countless warriors jumped. Their eyes suddenly had a look of worship. It was worship for the Spirit Nation. Spirit Nation, Spirit Nation. Following that, countless roars that sounded like a demon's voice soared into the sky. Upon closer inspection, the Spirit Nation was filled with experts. The streets and alleys were filled with experts. These experts were all people who had joined the Spirit Nation. The number of people had reached 100,000. Furthermore, their strength was not weak. The lowest talent was a 9th grade ultimate desolate body. The more powerful ones were acquired divine fetuses. This was the Spirit Nation's method of nurturing divine fetuses. It was no wonder these people were willing to join the Spirit Nation. Of course, to them, they did not know that the Spirit Nation was the world's consciousness. Brother Han, we've finally succeeded. Within a restaurant in Spirit Light City, several white-robed youths were sitting there, drinking wine. Their eyes were filled with a strong self-confidence. Duan Wuhan, I never expected your strength to increase greatly. Peak of the martial god realm, acquired divine fetuses, 16 divine powers. Tizksk, you've soared to the heavens. Suddenly a laugh was heard. In a corner, a youth looked at the wine cup in his hand and said, "Aren't you the same?" On the other side, a confident laugh was also heard. A young man in a white robe said with a smile as he tasted the wine in his cup, and he was naturally Duan Wuhan, the #1 genius of the Duan clan. Because he heard the suggestion of the Duan clan senior that there were divine treasures here, he came to try his luck. But who knew that his luck would be so good? Instead of finding the divine treasure, a Spirit Nation suddenly appeared and gave him 2 sapphire spiritual flowers, which greatly increased his strength. Even now he still felt like he was dreaming. However, his powerful strength told him that he wasn't dreaming. The current him was no longer the same as before. Therefore, he had naturally joined the Spirit Nation. Although he wasn't sure what Ling Nation did, he only knew that Ling Nation was the leader of the 9 states' 10 evils. However, as long as the Spirit Nation could make him stronger, everything would be enough. I'm afraid that your mortal enemy, Lin Ling, is no longer your opponent. The young man in the corner said again. Of course. Duan Wuhan nodded confidently. Today's Lin Ling is wanted by the Spirit Nation. He was seriously injured 3 years ago. If he really had any strength with his character, he would have resisted long ago. So he must be like a stray dog now. Unfortunately, the Spirit Nation didn't take a fancy to him. This shows that he isn't the reincarnation of a god. His words were full of disdain. He didn't know that Lin Ling was not only favored by the Spirit Nation, but also by Lord Ning. It was just that Lin Ling had rejected him. At present this void is sealed. So sooner or later Lin Ling will be found. At that time you can surprise your old opponent. Someone else spoke. Ha ha ha. Speaking of this, Duan Wuhan couldn't help but laugh excitedly. His mind was already filled with fantasies. At this moment in the palace, a naked man walked out of the huge light ball step by step. Thump, thump. The deafening sound continued to float out, causing the hearts of everyone in the hall to resonate. The current me should be ranked before the 50th on the stairway to heaven on the divine list. The man's long hair was scattered as he said lightly. And he was Han Xie. Although he was a trial challenger, he also knew that the top 100 experts on the stairway to heaven on the divine list were all mythical existences. Even as a trial challenger, he was no match for them. The main thing was that to become a trial challenger, it depended on talent. As for the top 100 experts on the stairway to heaven on the divine list, they had cultivated for a long time. Of course, their talent wasn't weak, but they didn't have the opportunity to become a trial challenger. Han Xie. People also stared at the evil man and found that the man's whole body was covered in white light. His skin seemed to be transparent, and they could see the blood vessels, meridians, and bones. His whole person had undergone an earth-shattering change. At his chest, a light ball was hidden in the depths, quietly jumping. Every time it jumped, there was a white mysterious force flowing through his body like blood, providing a powerful force. Congratulations! At this moment, the dragon spirit smiled faintly. There's no need. From now on we'll be allies. Han Xie waved his right hand, and a robe appeared in the void, covering his body. At the same time, a fist-sized evil spirit quietly appeared beside him, like a giant ghost. Moreover, when many people took a closer look, they found that Han Xie's right arm had disappeared. It had been cut off, and the wound had the power of the underworld, so it couldn't be healed. Previously, everyone's attention was attracted by the heart, so they missed this flaw. As for the evil spirit, it swam out from where the arm was cut off. It was extremely strange. Han Xie, as a trial challenger, had unimaginable means. Even the 9 states' 10 evils had never seen him before. This arm was cut off by her. As if sensing the people's gazes, Han Xie suddenly said with a smile, "Her? Longniang?" The dragon spirit's eyes flickered as it guessed. That bitch is really powerful. I heard that she has a grudge against Lin Ling, so I wanted to find out about Lin Ling's whereabouts through her. I also guessed that Longniang wanted Lin Ling dead, but who knew that the bitch would suddenly attack me when she got close to me? Han Xie was still smiling, but his laughter was very cold. Longniang. The dragon spirit obviously wasn't very familiar with Longniang. That's right, she's one of the trial challengers. Han Xie nodded. I really don't understand why that bitch would protect Lin Ling. However, she attacked me and I didn't let her off easily. After being poisoned by my evil poison, she must be in so much pain that she wants to die. Ha ha ha, she deserves it for protecting Lin Ling. Then where is she now? The dragon spirit asked again. I don't know, but I believe that she will appear because I caught her friend Little South. Chapter 41-46. Sowing Discord. When she said this, Long Ling's heart trembled. Although she didn't know what method Han Xie had used, she could guess that it must be terrifying. Oh right, you said that you were betrayed in the spirit palace and were hunted down by us. You've always been curious about who that person was. Now I can tell you. Suppressing the fear in her heart, Long Ling said faintly. Oh. Han Xie's eyes lit up. He was still furious about this. Originally, he had almost obtained the treasures in the treasure room. However, a large number of Spirit Nation experts had suddenly appeared and interrupted him. The most despicable thing was that the leader of the Spirit Nation experts had brought along Longniang and the rest. Therefore, he was still curious about who was playing with him. His name is Lin Ling. Long Ling said faintly. Lin Ling. Hearing that name, Han Xie felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He then looked at Long Ling in shock. You lied to me? I know you don't believe me. I also know that you thought that after betraying Lin Ling outside the Spirit Light City, Lin Ling was hunted down by us. But let me tell you, we did find Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling escaped very quickly and played a trick to lure the tiger away from the mountain. He turned around and entered the Spirit Light City. Then, he pretended to be a Spirit Nation expert and fooled you. That's right, his acting skills are higher than yours. Long Ling said casually. Of course she did it on purpose. She didn't want to see Han Xie rise and have a higher position in the hearts of Lord Ning and the rest than her. Lin Ling? Lure the tiger away from the mountain? An eye for an eye? Han Xie stared blankly for a moment, then began to laugh. His laughter was very maniacal. In his heart, anger erupted like a volcano. A mere Lin Ling dared to play with him? He would never have thought that after playing with Lin Ling not long ago, Lin Ling would immediately return the favor. Furthermore, he would be in an even more sorry state than when Lin Ling was being chased. A mere rookie cultivator dares to toy with an old man like me? Han Xie retracted his smile. Although there was anger in his eyes, there was also disdain. Don't underestimate him. However, the dragon spirit continued to rub salt into the wound. Han Xie, you were recruited by Sir Ning. To be recruited by Sir Ning is a supreme honor. Among the current batch of people who joined the Spirit Kingdom, you are the only one, correct? That's right. Han Xie nodded proudly. If it weren't for Lord Ning, do you think I would have joined the Spirit Nation? I'm sorry, but before you, there was another person who was valued by Sir Ning. He even took away the Creation Alliance right in front of Sir Ning. Sir Ning didn't get angry because Sir Ning valued him very much, and tried every means to get him to join the Spirit Nation. However, he refused. The dragon spirit laughed. His words were trying to sow discord. What? Who is he? Han Xie was instantly jealous. It turned out that he wasn't the first person. Furthermore, from the tone of the dragon spirit, that person seemed to be more valued by Sir Ning than him. How could he not be jealous? Don't tell me that he's Lin Ling again. Then, Han Xie suddenly thought of something. That's right, it's Lin Ling. He was also the first person to take someone away from the Spirit Nation. Moreover, Sir Ning didn't kill him. The dragon spirit nodded. Lin Ling, what right does he have? Han Xie's eyes instantly became extremely cold. Originally, with his seniority, he didn't put Lin Ling in his eyes at all. However, now Lin Ling had become his number 2 enemy. The number 1 enemy was naturally Longyang, who had cut off his arm. Longyang had a divine fetus, and was related to the gate of the underworld. After cutting off his arm, he could never recover and was left with endless shame. As for Lin Ling, he stole his limelight and toyed with Han Xie. Where is Lin Ling? Han Xie asked coldly. We're still looking for him. However, I heard that someone saw him. Currently, 2 of the 9 states' 10 evils of the ancient demon race are heading for him. I reckon that if Lin Ling is really found, he's definitely dead. The dragon spirit shrugged. Leave him to me. Let's go and catch Lin Ling. Han Xie couldn't let Lin Ling die so easily. He then took a big step and walked out of the main hall. Thump, thump. Almost at the same time, a roar came from his chest, shocking the entire city. 100,000 people looked up. My people, follow me to battle and kill Lin Ling. A loud roar, accompanied by the sound of a beating heart, exploded. The momentum was vast and domineering. It was as if Han Xie was the leader of the spiritual light city. This was one of the reasons why Han Xie joined the Spirit Nation. Because at the side of the 4 great gods, he was just an ordinary trial taker. However, here he could summon more experts, and they were all experts with divine fetus. Such a domineering scene naturally caused the dragon spirit's eyes to flicker secretly. She was jealous. Because if there was no Han Xie, she, the dragon spirit, would be the leader of the spiritual light city. Han Xie has come out. On the street, the eyes of a mysterious man dressed in white started to flicker. She was naturally Longyang. However, at this moment her face was incomparably pale. Moreover, under her white robe, under her plump breasts, there was a fist-sized wound there. The wound was dripping with blood. An evil energy was invading her body, causing her to feel heart-wrenching pain. This was the result of her sneak attack on Han Xie. She had crippled Han Xie's arm, and Han Xie had also attacked her. At this moment, she couldn't escape because Little South had been captured. Han Xie is too strong. If I don't seize the opportunity to save Little South, I will definitely be captured by him. Longyang secretly said. Unfortunately, the current me is no match for him. She followed the people on the street and quietly approached Han Xie. From afar, she could see that Han Xie's strength had greatly increased. She really couldn't win against that man. Therefore, she was very anxious. At the same time, blood quietly flowed out from the corner of her mouth. A cold chill suddenly spread throughout her body and wreaked havoc on her internal organs and meridians, causing her to be in so much pain that she wished she was dead. In order not to expose herself, she calmly stood there and endured without moving. There was only a trace of madness in her eyes. She couldn't leave Little South behind. Although her friendship with Little South was only during a mission, her only merit was that she kept her promises. Even if their friendship wasn't deep, she would still do what she promised. Han Xie and the others have left and are heading towards the gate of the spiritual light city. This means that there are no more strong people in the spiritual palace. This is the best chance to save Little South. Gritting her teeth and stubbornly, Longyang stroked the wound under her chest, and then walked in the direction of the spiritual palace. This time there were indeed very few people, which made Longyang happy. However, just as she approached the gate of the spiritual palace and tried to sneak in. Chapter 41-47. Attack the city. Not good. Longyang's expression instantly changed. She knew that she had been discovered. Almost at the same time, Han Xie, who was about to reach the city gate, revealed a cold smile. The rats have entered the hole. What? On the other hand, Long Ling and the others instantly frowned. It's Longyang. I knew that she must be hiding in the spirit palace, so I took this opportunity to lure her out. Sure enough, she was anxious to save Little South and finally fell for it. And that bitch fell into my hands. Hey, I'm going to play her to death. Han Xie turned his head and smiled at Dragon Spirit. It seemed like a casual sentence, but it also seemed to be reminding the Dragon Spirit. It seemed like the Dragon Spirit sowing discord previously. Han Xie had long anticipated it. This caused the Dragon Spirit's eyes to narrow, and he didn't say a word. Previously, he thought that Han Xie had been infuriated by him and had lost his mind, and he wanted nothing more than to capture Lin Ling immediately. But who knew that this was just an act by Han Xie, and even he, the Dragon Spirit, had been fooled by this act. How shrewd. You've been locked down by my means. Let's see how you're going to escape this time. Han Xie knew that the Dragon Spirit must be feeling extremely complicated at this moment, so he ignored the Dragon Spirit and focused his attention on Longyang. A ball of light appeared in front of him, showing the scene in front of the gate of the Spirit Palace. This also allowed people to see a white-robed man trapped by a white beam of light. Was that Longyang? However, whether it was Longyang or not, he would know when he went back. At that moment, Longyang realized that the beam of light coming from the gate of the Spirit Palace had made the wounds on her body even more painful. The wounds seemed to have sprouted and formed endless roots that spread all over her body. She, who was already severely injured, couldn't even move. She could already guess what was going to happen next. Han Xie was definitely rushing over. And if she fell into Han Xie's hands, Longyang would definitely not treat Han Xie well because she had cut off his arm. What should I do? Longyang thought quickly in her heart. Suddenly, she realized that with her strength against Han Xie, she was still a little weaker. Rumble. However, just when Longyang thought that there was no way to escape, the whole city suddenly shook. Whoosh! Soon after, the city gates of the spiritual light city collapsed. Such an unforeseen event had undoubtedly frightened the 100,000 experts within the city. Even Longyang's pupils constricted. Someone was attacking the city? Furthermore, they were attacking the city in such a brazen manner? Countless names instantly appeared in her mind. Could it be that the gods' people had come? Or was the Creation Alliance? Obviously, such a crucial attack had given Longyang time to escape. And that was indeed the case because Han Xie and the others originally wanted to turn around and capture Longyang, but the entire city suddenly trembled, and the city gate not far away crashed in front of them, which made them dumbfounded. Could it be that there are two Longyang? Dragon Spirit asked suspiciously. Or is the real Longyang outside the city? As soon as he finished speaking, Han Xie's expression was undoubtedly very unsightly. Because before this, he seemed to be in control of everything, and not a single sneaky rat could escape from his grasp. But now someone was attacking the city. This had clearly exceeded his expectations. In the end, he even suspected that the real Longyang might be outside the city. This was because in this void, the only one who dared to go against him, Han Xie, was Longyang. Let's go and take a look. Han Xie's voice was cold as he jumped up and reached the top of the city wall. Everyone was curious and followed closely. In a short moment, the walls of the spiritual light city were filled with people. Everyone wanted to know who dared to single-handedly attack the spirit light city. However, when they reached the top of the city wall, they immediately opened their mouths wide. This was because in the distant sky there was not only one person, but a dense crowd of people. These people walked in an orderly manner, gathering a powerful aura, and walked towards the spiritual light city in large strides. My eyes must be playing tricks on me. Many people began to rub their eyes. Some people who thought that they were dreaming even gave themselves a fierce slap. This was because everyone knew that the people who came here were here for the treasures of the Spirit Nation. Therefore, in this void the Spirit Nation was the boss. But now there was someone who dared to attack the boss. It was fine if it was just one person, but there were actually so many people. Who was it that was calling for this group of people? Look, that seems to be the Creation Alliance. Suddenly, The old man from the tomb guardian race exclaimed, "That's right, there's also the serpent race." Beside him, the great elder of the immortal temple also spoke. Then, their gazes carefully swept and finally landed on a familiar figure. This made them blow their beards and stare because they were very familiar with that person, so familiar that they could not forget him even in their dreams. At this moment, the mighty group of experts in the sky stopped in their tracks. Instead, a young man in a blue robe swaggered out with a huge sword on his shoulder. You are Lin Ling. Walking out in such a conspicuous manner, undoubtedly, those who knew Lin Ling opened their mouths wide. The person they had been looking for 3 years finally appeared today. Moreover, he appeared in such a domineering manner. This was too unbelievable. It must be fake. Someone shook his head. Obviously, he would rather believe that someone was attacking the city than believe that Lin Ling would personally come to their door. Last time we parted in a hurry. Today we meet again, Spiritual Light City. In the sky, a laughter drifted out like the wind. It seemed calm, but it carried with it a domineering aura. Whoosh! As his words fell, the large sword on his shoulder was swung down by Lin Ling. Rumble! The terrifying sword pillar formed by the large sword directly smashed onto the magnificent city wall of Spiritual Light City, causing it to collapse continuously. A large number of experts jumped up. However, what happened next made them even more dumbfounded. That was because that sword also told those who found it unbelievable that the person who came was really Lin Ling. This guy. Just as the magnificent city wall fell, a large number of experts appeared on the other side. They were naturally the experts of the ancient demon tribe and the she-ghost tribe. Moreover, the two leaders were here. As for them, their jaws dropped to the ground. Even the usually cold and emotionless woman in the black dress had her chin smashed on the ground. Not long ago, they had fought with Lin Ling and warned Lin Ling that there were countless experts in Spiritual Light City. However, just as they left, Lin Ling arrived and directly attacked the city. No, it should be said that Lin Ling arrived at Spiritual Light City faster than them. Damn it, this kid did it on purpose. Hey, two seniors, long time no see. Lin Ling clearly saw them and greeted them with a smile. To him, since he was going to come to Spiritual Light City, he was too lazy to be sneaky. He still wanted to test the power of his treasures. You. Chapter 41-48. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios Fury. Looking at the appearance of the ancient demon race and the she-ghost race, Long Ling and the rest knew that the two of them had failed. After all, they had gone to kill Lin Ling. Old demon, are you going easy on us again? Someone from the Great Devil sect sneered. Don't think that we don't know. Our Great Devil God knows that you have been going easy on the Creation Alliance for the past 3 years. Obviously, they thought that the ancient demon race and the rest had let Lin Ling go on purpose. Hearing this, the ancient demon race and the she-ghost race were furious and helpless. They were furious because the Great Devil sect had wronged them. They wanted to go easy on Lin Ling. But with Lin Ling's ferocity, it was impossible. We will report this matter to the Spirit Nation and say that the ancient demon race did not kill Lin Ling. The Great Devil God said in a cold voice, "Do you really want me to die?" But at this moment Lin Ling's voice floated out. Lin Ling stretched out one hand and countless tentacles suddenly extended out. Then, under everyone's gaze, they wrapped around the person who had spoken first and pulled him over. Those tentacles were like the tentacles of a jellyfish. "Sir, save me." This sudden change made the person scream in horror. Not far away, the Great Devil God's eyes narrowed because this person was from the Great Devil sect. Now, in the eyes of countless people, Lin Ling had kidnapped someone from the Great Devil sect. "Lin Ling, you dare to act recklessly?" The Great Devil God roared and his demonic aura soared into the sky. "Aren't you afraid that the 9 prefectures' 10 fiends will join forces to kill you?" Rumble. As soon as he finished speaking, a huge demonic bone condensed in the sky. The demonic bone was completely black with long hair fluttering above the skull. This was a demonic seed from the era of gods. It had stirred up a storm of blood during the era of gods. At that time, some people said that this was the descendant of the bull demon god. However, under the joint forces of the gods, this demonic god was eradicated. No one knew where his corpse was buried. After the era of gods, This demonic seed was obtained by the great devil god and completely awakened. At this moment, Lin Ling retracted his right hand and Lin Ling grabbed the neck of the person. His eyes were cold as he looked ahead. Trying to scare me with the spirit kingdom? Since I dared to come today, I am not afraid of the spirit. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly clenched his fist. With a cracking sound, the neck of the person in his hand was crushed like a piece of bamboo. Lin Ling, you are courting death. The great demonic god's eyes instantly turned red. Now Lin Ling had killed someone in front of him. Lin Ling, what are you doing? Are you looking for death? However, just as he was about to fly into a rage, a calm voice suddenly traveled over and stopped the great demon god. She was none other than the dragon spirit. Clearly, she was also very suspicious of Lin Ling's large-scale attack on the city. After all, based on Lin Ling's strength, he should not dare to meet force with force against Spirit Light City. Of course, she could not let Lin Ling do as he pleased. Although Lord Ning and the rest had left, she knew that they had important matters to attend to. In the Spirit Light City, a great god of the Spirit Nation would awaken. Therefore, she could not let Lin Ling cause trouble here. I know what he is here for. At this moment, Han Xie took a step forward. His left hand stroked his severed arm. He lowered his head and looked at Lin Ling with an evil smile. Lin Ling, you are here for Little South, right? Then he said word by word, that's right. Little South is indeed in my hands. Lin Ling, do you want it? Speaking of which, the taste of that girl is not bad. These words were undoubtedly provoking Lin Ling's anger. Seeing that, the dragon spirit also retreated. She knew that this was the battlefield between Lin Ling and Han Xie. Lin Ling might not have much enmity with Han Xie, but Han Xie definitely wanted to kill Lin Ling to prove himself. Of course, based on Han Xie's previous words, she had a feeling that Lin Ling should be angry. Reality was indeed so. Lin Ling strode forward once more above the surging smoke in the sky, and his expression became icy cold as if he'd come from the 9th level of hell. Little South and Longyang are very tight-lipped. They know that you're hiding there, but they won't say a word. So, in order to leave a deep impression on them, I'll let them experience what it means to be a man. Han Xie continued to sneer when he saw this. Then, as if he was venting something, his voice became sharper and sharper. Lin Ling, I didn't expect that you would actually dare to bite me after I framed you last time. Very good. You are the first person in my life who dared to trick me. Where is Little South? Lin Ling didn't waste any time and went straight to the point. Little South is crying in my room. Beg me. Perhaps I will be merciful and give Little South to you. And Longyang tsk, she was very loud last night. Han Xie grinned. The angrier Lin Ling was, the happier he was. Now he wanted to show Ling Country why Lin Ling has a higher status than him. He wanted to show Lord Ning what he, Han Xie, could not compare to Lin Ling. Following Han Xie's words, roars of laughter rang out from Spirit Light City. Everyone could see that Lin Ling's expression was incomparably gloomy. He must be in a violent rage at this moment. The angrier Lin Ling was, the happier they would be. In reality, Lin Ling knew that Han Xie was trying to provoke him. However, he couldn't be sure that Han Xie wasn't lying to him. If he wasn't, then he wouldn't be able to face Little South. Hence, Lin Ling's eyes were filled with murderous intent, and the flames of fury in his heart were burning. It's Lin Ling. Just as the laughter from Spirit Light City reached the heavens, a woman in white robes among the crowd looked into the distance with a complicated expression. She was Longyang. With the previous sensational attack on the city, she had been completely freed. However, she never expected that the one attacking the city would be Lin Ling. This meant that Lin Ling was the one who had saved her. Now, as she watched Lin Ling attack the city in a frenzy, her heart was filled with complicated emotions. She knew how powerful Han Xie was. Furthermore, the 9 states' 10 evils had gathered here. This wasn't something that a mere Lin Ling could stand against. He's attacking the city because of me and Little South? Then Longyang furrowed her brows and gently bit her lips. However, she quickly shook her head. She could hear that Lin Ling seemed to be here for Little South. This made her feel uncomfortable because she had done a lot to protect Lin Ling. Lin Ling, you want to compete with Big Brother Han Xie? At this moment, a figure suddenly jumped up from the city wall. His robe was fluttering wildly and there was a huge sun above his head. However, upon closer inspection, it wasn't a sun but a huge heavenly fate wheel. The heavenly fate wheel was no longer the same as before. It was much larger and the needle-like rays of light emitted from it seemed to have materialized. This was an innate divine fetus. It was also the means of the gods. People immediately looked at the man and found that it was Duan Wuhan, the number one genius of the Duan family. He was also the only master in the Duan family, who was second only to the martial god of the Duan lineage. Duan Wuhan and Lin Ling have always had a grudge against each other. However, he has been repeatedly defeated by Lin Ling. This time, he wants to wash away the humiliation. This was because Duan Wuhan was recruited by Han Xia and belonged to Han Xia. However, Duan Wuhan's strength was indeed not to be underestimated. Everyone followed the dragon spirit's instructions and formed a huge amount of realm essence in their bodies. Only then did the pressure from the fate wheels of heaven lessen a lot. Then they all looked at Duan Wuhan solemnly. The current Duan Wuhan was probably a master ranked 70th on the divine list. Such a master was recruited by the spirit nation. This was also the blessing of the spirit nation. Moreover, with Duan Wuhan's talent in the future, the world would not be able to accommodate Duan Wuhan. Clearly, this was a future deity. With Duan Wuhan taking action against Lin Ling, it's very suitable. Aha, I think this Lin Ling is crazy. He thinks that he can fight against the spiritual light city with a group of people. It's simply a fool's dream. Haha, when Lin Ling is defeated, the people behind him will also be in a mess. In the spiritual light city, voices quietly sounded. Swoosh. At this moment, a sword light flashed out. Murderous and demonic aura soared into the sky, turning into a straight line and flying out. Then the huge heaven fate wheel shook, and a dazzling light bloomed. Everyone felt that the world was white, and nothing could be seen. After a short moment, when everything was restored, people rubbed their eyes and looked carefully. Only then did they realize that the huge heaven fate wheel had disappeared, and the sky was clear. Looking at the ground again, two figures stood there. The wind blew and their robes fluttered. Moreover, the two of them stood with their backs facing each other. Plop! At this time a dull sound rang out. Then a head fell to the ground, rolling like a rubber ball. However, the person who lost his head was still standing there, motionless like a statue. It was as if even he did not expect that his head would fall off. This scene scared everyone into silence, because they saw that the person who was beheaded was actually the number one genius of the Duan family, Duan Wuhan. A future god had fallen just like that. One must know that a moment ago, Duan Wuhan was full of energy, but the next moment he became a headless corpse. This was too unbelievable. Who killed Duan Wuhan? Many people were silent. The previous confrontation was too fast and too dazzling, so they could not see anything. In addition, although they knew that Lin Ling was very strong, they did not think that Lin Ling had the strength to kill Duan Wuhan in one move. Therefore, they investigated everywhere, suspecting that someone had secretly helped Lin Ling. Among all the people, only Han Xie smiled slightly. His smile was very evil. Of course he had noticed something. As for Long Ling next to him, although she did not see anything, she had heard that Lin Ling's strength was only inferior to the 9 regions' 10 evils. He had once defeated Lord Ning's Wang Shui under the curtain. Chapter 4150. Mysterious. How dare you? However, just as Lin Ling's sword was about to land, a black skeletal arm suddenly appeared and grabbed the tyrannical Song sword. This arm was a skeletal arm and was extremely strange. However, its power was not weak at all. It could actually block Lin Ling's sword. One had to know that in the current 9 states and the final world, Lin Ling knew that there were not many people who could block his sword. Therefore, he could guess the origin of this person. Lin Ling slowly raised his head and landed in the sky. In the sky, a huge black bone demon god appeared. On top of the skull, the long hair fluttered and the hollow eyes looked down at Lin Ling, the great demon god. Lin Ling instantly knew who the other party was. No wonder he was so strong. With me here, you can't kill him. The low voice sounded again and landed on the ground, causing a terrifying wave of air to appear. If I, Lin Ling, want to kill someone, no one can stop me. Lin Ling still looked at the sky and said calmly, "Is that so?" In the sky, the huge black bone demon god nodded. The demonic aura on his body seemed to condense into a solid form, eventually forming a huge black demonic shadow that covered the black bone. Only a pair of dazzling eyes could be seen looking down at Lin Ling. This terrifying aura shook the spiritual light city, as if tribulation clouds had covered the sky. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air and then laughed. This time, the one who came was the great demon god of the 9 states, 10 vicious. Lin Ling could not win. Among everyone, only the ancient demon race secretly snorted. Perhaps no one had seen Lin Ling defeat Wang Shui, so they did not believe in Lin Ling's strength. However, they had personally experienced Lin Ling's strength. Therefore, they knew that the great demon god would not be at an advantage and would even be in danger. As for Long Ling, she knew that Lin Ling had defeated Wang Shui before. However, Wang Shui's strength was not enough to fight against the great demon god. Although the two were comparable in strength, in a life-and-death battle, after exchanging thousands of moves, the great demon god would obviously win by one move. If I say so, then so be it. At this moment, Lin Ling lowered his head and muttered to himself. In the next moment he disappeared. The great demon god was still holding Lin Ling's tyrannical song sword. However, Lin Ling had already abandoned the sword and left to pounce on the old man. Instantly, a hand grabbed the old demon god's head. Extremely fast. Coupled with Lin Ling's unexpected actions, not only the crowd, but even the great demon god was unable to react in time. Die! Next, the flame of the human sovereign gushed out from Lin Ling's palm and burned the old man's body into nothingness. Lin Ling's hand was still holding the old man's head, and the flames on the head were boiling. This ferocious action no doubt gave everyone a fright. It was hard to imagine that Lin Ling's seemingly small figure was actually able to repeatedly beat back the corpse of a fiend god from the era of gods. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. And in order to prevent the great demon god from retreating, countless jellyfish tentacles appeared behind Lin Ling, wrapping around the great demon god and preventing him from retreating. Bang bang bang. Next, Lin Ling's fists madly rained down. Strands of demonic energy poured out, and in the end, the great demon god's demonic energy was scattered, revealing his black demonic bones. Now, he was clearly stunned by Lin Ling's attacks. His skeletal face was filled with disbelief. This was because he never imagined that Lin Ling would possess such strength. Whoosh! At this time Lin Ling leapt up, rushing to the peak. With a speed of 15,000 worlds, he almost broke through the void. When he landed, he stretched out his foot, ruthlessly chopping down like a battle axe. Die for me! Die! Bang! This foot landed on the great demon god's head, immediately producing a dull sound, like the explosion of heavenly thunder. Bang! Then, Lin Ling landed on the ground, his tentacles and dragon claws slightly swaying, majestic and awe-inspiring. Looking at the great demon god again, he was frozen in place. Next, cracks began to appear on his head, continuously spreading, and finally spreading to his entire body. Ka-ka-ka! Pieces of bones began to fall, finally collapsing like a tower, rumbling and turning into a pile of broken bones.